that was fun, everybody. Welcome to a belated start to Paul English Live on a Wednesday evening. That was a kerfuffle. 7 minutes past 8. I think we're even later starting than we were last week. So this is obviously a habit that I'm developing. I hope it's not put your nose out of joint too much. It might have done. There's always a bit of a technical trouser thing here. And a piece of software did something that it's not supposed to, and it took me ages to find it because it's the last place I thought I would look. Anyway, isn't that boring? What a boring start to a really rather brisk Thursday evening. This is Paul English Live 1:30. 1:30, welcome to the show. I just bought a new pair of technical trousers the other day. Heart wearing them, of course, obviously. And if you're in Rumble and YouTube and we're coming across okay, just type a message in there to let us know. I'll get a chance to look at it in a minute or two. We're here on WBN and all the other attendant radio stations. I'll give a shout out as well. If that doesn't get me fired, I don't know what will. I really don't. That was quite a thing. I think the problem's been because I've just been talking my little head off all day today. But wow. I love live radio, he said, coughing, choking on things. Hope you do too. Hope you've had a cracking week. We better bring some other voices in. I mean, I'm quite calm about all this, but that was bonkers. That was really seriously bonkers. Anyway, Eric, hello, good evening. Hello. Do you like starting at a slightly later time?
Yes, there's nothing like starting at a later time. It's really interesting hearing yourself echo. It's like, little boy echo, here do you do. Hello, hello. Bonzo Dog Doodah Band did that.
Did they? They did.
Yes, little boy echo, yes.
I spend too much time talking about technical doodads, but actually it's been a week for that. I think Windows, which I am compelled to use because of certain other pieces of software. I bet that's true for most of you as well. You feel as though you have to use it because of certain apps that you want to use, all that kind of stuff. And I just bought another machine, though, last week, a work machine, not one to play on, to set up Linux on and see if I can migrate over to Linux at some point. But there we go. Anyway, what's tonight's episode called? I came up with a very interesting title for it tonight. What was it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Flatulent Aliens Hypnotized My Monkey. And other hot stories. And what that should send out...
Well, it's funny you should say that.
Yeah, go on.
It's funny you should say that, you know. Sorry.
Is that right?
As you do, you know.
Well, it's known as the Winds of Change, and for good reason, isn't it? And
yes.
What it really says is, I haven't a clue, really, what we're going to talk about tonight. I found that fantastic picture. I've got several others, and I looked at it all day, and I thought, I don't want to talk about UFOs. But then maybe people out there do, but I don't. They always seem a bit old hat now. They're not as much fun as they used to be. Well, we've got so much trouble down here in our local sort of neighbourhoods that UFOs seem a bit boring, don't they? I mean, if they turned up, I'd be going, well, what kept you? And also, what do you think you're doing anyway? And why are you sticking your nose into our business? And you'll probably be behind it all anyway, what's going on, you know. So it would be difficult to know. But it is rather a giddy sort of image, isn't it? I quite liked it anyway. So there you go.
It is. Yes. It's a UFO sounds like a sort of a rude thing that you say to someone, isn't it? You know, UFO.
Yeah, I know. I actually had written that down. I spent about you can see what a sad little day I've had. I spent time writing things down. UFO, no, ... UFO, no UFO, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we're only a hair's breadth away from vulgarity on this show. I'm sorry about that. We're not people of good taste on a Thursday evening. I think it's because it's late in the day, isn't it, Eric? And all, our considerable aging brain power has all leaked out during the day, hasn't it? Don't you think?
But... Well, that's right. But on the subject of UFOs, don't you think it's amazing that aliens go across the universe for millions of light years to land on Earth and meet a complete and utter raving nutcase? Don't you think that's absolutely incredible? How they actually sort a loony out to actually make contact with?
Yeah.
I've often wondered that. Sorry,
well, I think, what's that thing that Carl Sagan said? Have you seen me washboard? No, he didn't say that. He said either this planet is the only planet in the whole universe sustaining life in the form that we know it, or the entire universe is teeming with life that we at some point may meet or may not. Either way, I think he said, it's an astonishing thought. And it is. Either way, in whichever direction you want to look at, it's amazing. Both ways. Because if it is just us...
Yes.
And I have no idea, to be quite honest, of course, because I have limited knowledge of the vast expanse of the universe. It looks quite big to me, except possibly I don't even know what I'm looking at. What am I looking at when I look up at the sky? I don't know, little holes through other things. But yeah, I think that's quite an amazing and arresting thought.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I suppose there's been some action down here on planet Earth over the last week, but I've got to tell you, for the life of me, I have no idea what it is. I've had my nose stuck to the grindstone, cocking up my audio settings here. Actually, I'm very cross about that today. And as you can tell. So I've not anything going on. Who's getting bombed today? Really, seriously. I mean, that's why I put the headline in, because... what are we supposed to make of all this stuff again and again and again? Do you sometimes get the sense, Eric, that we're just being tugged around with one shocking headline after another? And I have no idea what... Don't you think? I have no way of proving any of it. Has anybody?
I agree, because since I've been driving for many, many years, several decades. I have got out of my car to have a break, of course, to speak on a show.
Yeah.
But throughout that time, it's been nothing but... wars that create an oil shortage so they can hike the price of petrol up. And when you consider that oil is the second most abundant liquid on Earth, I think we're being conned. And also, they're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, but what they don't tell you is there's loads and loads of pipelines going across the desert, supplying oil to here, there, and just about every bleeding where. So only about 20% of oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. And most of that goes to China. Oh,
let me introduce Paul. Paul, look.
Sorry.
We've
hello.
got... hello, Paul. Welcome to the show. Your timing was good, because we had a moment there that lasted 7 or 8 minutes. So we were late at getting to the pub tonight. It was a bit tricky, actually. They wouldn't let us in, and when we did, we were all echoing all over the place. And yours truly was responsible for it, to my eternal shame. But Paul, it's good. It's good. We've now got sufficient Pauls here. We've got 3 Pauls in the studio, and you can't really do a show without 3 Pauls. It seems as though this is because I was on with Paul today. I hopped into Roger Sales's show this afternoon, meaning to just... because Paul had announced that the show was going out at 3 p.m. US Eastern. And as you all well know, they did their clock fandango at the weekend. And we are now a mere 4 hours ahead of New York, or Eastern Seaboard time, which is quite nice, really. 4 seems a lot closer than 5, doesn't it? It's only an hour, but it makes a big difference, really. So I just called in to correct that. Of course, I hung around for 2 hours, just gassing like a good one. It was a lot of fun, actually. Talked about a lot. It was great. It was really, really good. So there we go. Anyway, there were 3 Pauls there, Paul, just to let you know. So twice in the same day, I've done a 3 Paul show. So this is, I don't know whether this is...
You know what we're missing here? We need a Debbie McGee on here.
Do we? What, like a show host? A compare, you mean?
Yeah, well, he used to say, yes, Paul. Yes, Paul. I think you're missing it. I think you're missing the trick here. You need to get a Debbie McGee.
Yes.
Now, for listeners outside of the United Kingdom, or I shouldn't call it that, outside of these mighty isles governed by these noble creatures called politicians, Debbie McGee was this rather rather attractive blonde lady who had married a magician called Paul Daniels, who was not in the same league, really. He was considerably... Has he passed on now, the magician Paul Daniels? Has he disappeared? Has he?
Yeah.
Yes, he's croaked it. But there was the question, wasn't it? This beautiful young lady, she said, what exactly first attracted you to millionaire Paul Daniels? And that was a question by Mrs. Merton, wasn't
it? She was fantastic.
And she said he liked his magic wand.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Merton. Of course, our American listeners won't know what we're talking about, but Paul Daniels was he was sort of an intermittently good magician. He had a sort of cheesy patter, didn't he? He wasn't everybody's cup of tea. Let's put it that way.
He was irritating. He's bleeding irritating. I found him very irritating, in fact. Yes, good. Say yes, Paul. That's what he used to say. I say yes, Paul. He's like, oh, yes, Paul, you know. And
he did that exciting game show, Every Second Counts. Remember that?
Every second
I don't
counts.
Remember that.
Does it? Well, it does, actually. The first 7 minutes counted tonight. I've just lost my licence. It's all over. I'm done for.
Well, it counted for him because it killed him.
Oh, dear. What a pity. Yeah, big blow. Yeah, anyway, we were talking about some good stuff today, actually, over on Roger's show. Better than what we've talked about here so far. No, seriously, it was quite good. It was a lot of fun. Lots of things. You were just talking there about oil, Eric, as one does, and you were saying it's the second most plentiful liquid. Would I be right in thinking that the most plentiful liquid is urine?
No, it could be, but it's actually water. I suppose you could say that's right, but it was actually Rockefeller, I think his name was. Rockefeller.
Yes.
In the 1900s, I think it's 1910, you can look it up on YouTube. He paid some scientists to call it fossil fuel. Now, if it was from fossils, like the dinosaurs and the odd mangy cat thrown in for good measure, would have run out in 1946, where in fact it replenishes. It's actually carbon-based. So
right.
Oil wells have actually filled up in certain places. So the idea that it's running out, as I say, it would have run out years ago.
Is the word abiotic that they talk about the fact that the Earth itself is like a big grease ball and it just leaks this fluid out back into the holes again? They sort of replenish and fill up again.
Yes.
It's something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, don't they reckon it's constantly renewing itself anyway? Don't they reckon it's a sustainable fuel here, and that the Earth actually knows what to deal with, how to deal with the fumes, for example, on the back of it?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, carbon dioxide we need because that's what we all need to live. Because without
Heretic.
It, we're all brown bread, aren't we?
Heretic.
I'm sorry. That's two truths I've said in the last 10 minutes.
Stone
so I do apologise.
Stone him. We need carbon dioxide. Paul, I listen to Peter Mandelson and people like that and Ed Millipede, and they tell me that we don't need it and we've got too much of it. Who should I believe? Eric, who do you believe? Paul or Ed Millipede?
They probably use too much of it.
What can you do with these people? I don't
Ed
know.
Millipede is I don't know. Is he been? Is he in jail yet, or is he? Still swanning about, shall we say?
Was Ed Millipede the one with the stretched face, or was it the other one? Because the brothers
that
were
was
both,
the one with the banana. No, hang on. You've got Millie Baines, and then you got that other geezer, haven't you? What was his name now?
I know you got Ed Balls, but I thought didn't the two brothers, the Millipede brothers, were they both MPs or MPs?
Well, no, Ed Balls
they were
married
both MPs. Who's the other one? Ed's the idiot, and the other one's the sort of serious idiot. He went off to head up some charity, didn't he, where he gets paid a huge amount of money in the States, all based on this environmental claptrap that they've been manufacturing and think that people believe, which, of course, tragically, I suppose they do to some degree. Yeah, absolutely. Very bad. But, now, speaking of... No, actually, I wasn't going to do that. I'm going to do that in a minute. What was I going to say? The oil thing, of course, is one of these great illustrations of a whole chain of control points, isn't it? It's been foisted upon us to some degree. I'm not saying that I don't like oil. It's lovely. Engineers obviously need it for the lubrication of cogs in machines and pistons and the like, and all sorts of other things. It's absolutely brilliant for that as a lubricant and probably for all sorts of other things. But as a fuel, I don't think so. And of course, one of the things, I'm going to go off at a slight tangent here. So I think the oil industry is a really good one because in the sense that it does illustrate all these sort of control points up and down the line, because you have to have regulators, don't you? And then you can control the market. And it's enabled them, of course, to cause all sorts of havoc in that part of the world, which produces all the oil. Although, of course, it didn't need to have been that part of the world, did it? Because Venezuela apparently have got quite a bit, haven't they? They've got quite a bit.
They have.
And America itself, up in Alaska, has got tons of the stuff, which they're not allowed to get out of the ground, which is this bizarre thing. Why are they not allowed to get it out? Because you can't borrow money to buy your own asset back off yourself, can you?
No,
I mean, if you
but
own all this
know-
stuff already, how are the banks? You say, hey, we've got all this oil. They go, oh, well, we don't like the fact that you've got all this oil. We want to control all that oil. So, yeah, they were warned off. I've told this story before about that Alaskan thing. The pastor, Lindsay Williams. My brain's working, at least better than the sound system. Yeah, Pastor Lindsay Williams was up there a long time ago, early 70s. He was brought on to help all the guys that were working up there because the suicide rate was high and psychiatrists weren't helping. No surprise there. Psychiatrists need a psychiatrist, really, if you ask me.
Yes.
And so he's a pastor. They went up and he started ministering to them, and the suicide rate dropped tremendously. They regained some sort of semblance of mental stability, these poor lads up there in the middle of bloody nowhere, you know, because it's tough life up there. And so he did a grand job, and they loved him to bits, and they included him in all these meetings. And he went into the office one day, and all the champagne corks were popping because they'd just discovered this colossal oil and gas field up there. Enough fuel and gas in there to keep America running for about 400 years. Seriously.
Wow.
Right? Just everything you would ever need. Well, that's a good result, isn't it? Apparently not, because a week or so later, loads of these sort of helicopters that flew in, they used to appear in all these 70s movies. You know those 70s helicopters? They all arrived with a flotilla of men of certain types, and they were told that they were not going to drill it. And that was that. And that is for that reason. I mean, the bank can't make as much hay. Also, if you were getting all your oil locally, why would you need to be involved so heavily in the affairs of the people in the Middle East, who you are now being brought to a position where you perceive that they have all the oil, which is not true. They don't, as Venezuela has now produced. And there's tons of oil here that they won't drill for, in the English Channel going up the coast. Yeah, there's loads of it. And gas. You've got all these shale fields, but apparently we've got to stick windmills up and bloody solar panels, which are a joke, right? They wouldn't have to be a joke, but they're a joke. All for political manipulation purposes. Nothing to do with energy.
Precisely.
Surely not.
But do you not think the windmills they put up are there to... I mean, we know they don't do anything because aren't they connected to a diesel generator, and when it's windy they can't work, so they're wind turbines. But in an advertising perspective, that's basically trade description, that really, isn't it? But
yeah.
Do you think they're just there for show to keep, a bit like where we keep seeing ambulances all the time, like on schedules to keep the fear going? Do you think they're the same? Do you get a feeling they're in there the same reason, just to keep the climate change nonsense there on people's, like you go to the seaside and they're there. Do you know what I mean?
Don't you think there's I agree with you, Paul. I think so. I think there's a lot of areas that you look at as you sort of are able to stand back more and more. I do like this analogy. That's my favourite one. You can't see the wood for the trees. It's almost like a ground rule around here. That people are so close in on the intense horribleness that they're telling you about that you can't stand back and get any idea of a slightly bigger picture to sort of put it into some context. It's all of these scaremongering things I've heard throughout my life, not one is either true or has ever happened in any particular way. So, yeah, any tool is possible. And when you've got a population in anxiety, not outright dread and terror, that's too much because they can't function at all. You're keeping us all slightly unstable and concerned. And what's better, you have to turn up to the next meeting and listen to the next lie in case you miss out and things are going to be really bad because we're the government and we know what we're talking about. We've got all these experts around. We're not going to tell you that we paid them off. And they'll say whatever we tell them to say to you and that you'll believe it because we're all in on the deal and we don't really care. You're so stupid you can't work it out. But I think you're right. I mean, just about everything. I know it seems ridiculous. It's like ostrich mentality, but seriously, if you don't look at a lot of this stuff, you feel a load better, and you'll find that you'll probably wake up tomorrow morning feeling even better. I'm not arguing.
Yes, I mean,
don't you think?
I agree, because I mean, every time I listen to the radio is when I'm in my car, and I was in a bleeding great traffic jam the other day.
Yeah.
So I switched Classic FM on, and when the news comes on or the charity adverts, I just switch it off. And sort of, wait about a minute, then switch it back on again, and I haven't heard it. I'm quite happy sort of living in that kind of ignorance. I don't really want to know about someone that's just been diagnosed with something nasty, and please can you send lots of money to find a cure, which we have found, but we don't really want you to know that we've found a cure, and that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
But,
I wouldn't say that you're displaying ignorance there. Maybe it's second level ignorance. It's informed ignorance. You're actually making an informed choice. You're not ignorant of what the real subtext of the messages is, are you? You're completely conscious of that. You're saying, here they are, pushing out a little bit more fear to get me even more anxious about something I can't do anything about. They love that too. You're helpless. You can't do anything about it. That's why you need us to do it. See, we're going to help you again. Really? Again?
And of course,
when did you do it first time?
And of course, the thing with Classic FM, they always do their utmost to get rid of their listeners, don't they? Because when I used to listen to Classic FM, you get a bit of news and that'd depress you a little bit, and then you get the adverts and it'd be saying things like, "Have you booked your funeral? Have you considered childcare? Have you considered what sort of car your family would like to see you driven to your funeral?" Every other advert was about a funeral. I think, Nick, this is good stuff. This is. Talk about kill your listeners off.
Well, sort of. Yeah, there is that. There's loads of... I notice, of course, with the algorithms on the internet, they keep bombarding me with this sort of stuff because I'm of a certain age, Well, I like the idea of what car do you want to go to your funeral? A Jag. I want to go in a Jag, please, really quickly. Driven by a sports car driver. I want him to rev up and just, shoot around the churchyard, firing bits of stone chippings all over the congregation. Yeah, that's what I want. No, it is. It's all a little bit much. And there's tons of them in there. I get this one for my local area that keep popping up. The real truth about cremations. What are you talking about? Who cares?
Well, there was what I was up in. Where was I up on Saturday? I was up in Stoke on Saturday. I was up in Newcastle under Lyme.
Yeah.
And I went past some row of shops. And at the end of it was a family funeral directors, and it said, we're well rated. Well, how do they know they're well rated? They can't really go and ask. What do they do? How do you think we handled your
really
dead
well.
dad? Oh yeah, it was brilliant.
Bob Smith said, that's the best time I've ever been buried. I didn't think it was going to be that good.
We've never had a complaint yet.
Did they have a sort of special offer on?
Yeah.
Die now, pay later.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it like? What do they say? What's your service like? Well, we don't know. We've never had any feedback from the customers, actually. They don't say a word. Really? No, nothing. Yeah. So.
Which Best Buy?
Yeah.
Which recommended?
Especially they're laid out. I'm not dead yet. Shut up. Bash, take that.
There is that. Yeah,
but
yeah.
Do you know why in Ireland they got potatoes and in the Middle East they got oil? Do you know that reason?
No.
The reason is when God was handing these things out, the Irish had first choice. I think we go for the potatoes, Mick. That's a bloody good idea.
I wonder how the Irish feel about. I wonder how they feel about being the butt of that particular joke. In my personal experience, right? No, seriously. Although I did bump into an Irish fella today in the supermarket who was reading the sports pages about football. He said Tottenham are not doing well. I said, does it matter? I really was just taken aback. It's like, what? Football?
So
are you
what?
out here? He said, oh yeah, they're not doing very well. I said, oh right, okay. I said, do you actually sort of watch that? He said, oh yeah, I support Brighton. I said, well, never mind. He said, I'm Irish. He said, but I haven't been there for sort of like 50 years. He said, so if I went back, I'd get lost. I said, I was going to say, well, go on, get lost then. Go back and watch football. He wasn't that obnoxious, but I said, what's the point of all this then? What's the culture? It's culturally irrelevant, football. And then they started talking about cricket, which was tedious beyond belief. I said, well, I'm from Yorkshire and I hate cricket. And they went, that's sacrilege. I went, it's just common sense. It's tedious. I can't cope with cricket. I keep on watching it and putting it on. This is not particularly profound. It doesn't make for profound listening. If you're outside of England, you don't know what cricket is. It's basically an event that takes place over 5 days and it ends in a draw. That's all that happens. It goes on for 5 days. Each day starts at 11 o'clock in the morning, finishes at 6:30, sometimes 7 o'clock at night. It goes on and on and on, and they just talk and talk and talk. And then after a test match, they'll talk about the test match for the next 10 days, won't they? It must be great if you can do that. But
it's designed to cure insomnia, isn't it? It's if you can't sleep, you just look at that, and you'll be off to sleep in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And of course, the other thing with that is that if you become a star in cricket, in 20 years' time, you'll be advertising shredded wheat.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, you probably
like Ian Botham.
Oh yeah, that was nice. I suppose if you're into it, I know some people around here. Sussex is a big cricket county, and they're really, really into it. And it never bit me as a kid. Did you play at school, Eric, or were you compelled?
Yes.
Encouraged to play?
I was compelled to play.
Yeah.
And I was bored.
Yeah, me too.
Out of my mind.
Me too. I remember standing on
do
the
you know what
boundary.
me and my mates used to do?
Yeah. What do you do?
We used to take a step back and step back and step back when we were fielders until we were so far. We'd open the ball would never come anywhere near us. So every time the SOAPBOX will look round, we'd take
What
a
are you
step
doing
back.
over there, Von Essex? I'm just getting ready for it if he hits a really big one, sir. Yes. You're in the
Why you
next
want to bus
field.
to London?
I was the worst person for sport you could ever wish to think of.
Why,
I
Eric?
bloody
Why
hated
were
it.
you the worst?
Because I come from a non-sporty family.
Oh, right,
And when you
okay.
come from a non-sporty family, we were looked very athletic. That's the trouble. Kids that looked athletic but were non-sporty got bullied more than the fat kids. And no, as I say, we were fielding. We learned that. We just kept stepping backwards and backwards and backwards. It's really funny because it's so far out. Don't have to field that far away, boys. That's okay, sir. But okay.
I used to end up playing football round the other side of the tree and getting detention for it. You're in a cricket match, am I? Yeah, do I have to be? What's the point of it? I don't understand. So I preferred kicking football. I have an interesting story, though. Well, it's slightly interesting. But it's interesting for me. Well, you'll find it really boring, actually. But I had an uncle. I had 3 Uncle Jacks. 3. It's quite a bit like 3 Pauls on this show tonight, except they were called Jack, so it's nothing like it at all, really. 3 Uncle Jacks, which was really rather funny. And it was because there was I've said that my mum had a brother called Jack. And she had 2 sisters, and both the sisters also married Jacks. So every time anybody said Jack, when they're in the room, 3 heads turned, it was always a sort of a joke until it got boring, which lasted 5 minutes. Anyway, one of the Jacks, lovely guy, very nice at playing the piano, really just a really sweet sort of guy. He was really into football and had played a lot when he was younger. And was sort of he wasn't that way when I knew him because he was in his 60s by that. He wasn't still playing football, but he had a brother who was really into cricket. And apparently this made for great friction in their household as they were growing up. And his brother actually played for Yorkshire and got a cap, right? So he came back one day with this cap, and my Uncle Jack got hold of it and threw it in the bin. His logic being, it's not a man's sport. Right. Of course, some people would say, rightly now, that football isn't a man's sport, and I would tend to agree. So there is that kind of stuff. Whereas the actual Uncle Jack, the real one that was a relation to my mum, he was really into rugby, massively into rugby league, which is a northern vicious game full of hooligans. No, they're not really. It's a pretty tough sort of sport, really. So anyway.
I've got to say that rugby supporters seem to be more there's certainly more decent people to travel with than football muppets. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's because they get all the violence out on the pitch, really.
Muppets, and they just get pissed and that's it. But whereas the rugby fans seem to be human, decent. Yeah.
Yes, but
they are.
They're men that play with that have got strange balls, haven't they? That they play with.
Maybe that's why they're civilised then.
What's that definition?
Yes.
Football is a game for gentlemen played by hooligans, and rugby is a game for hooligans played by gentlemen. And I think it kind of covers it in a way. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Now, I've got a clip that I wanted to... changing tack again. We never know quite how the first hour is going to go. I don't know. All over the shop. I have a clip to play, but it's 9 minutes long. And I don't know whether to play it to you, but it really got my attention. Maybe I'll just describe it to you a little bit. That'll probably be better. I've mentioned, I'll stick the link in the chat for everybody who wants to go and watch this, although you're really listening to it. I've mentioned this chap before, and this taps into the AI field, but it came at it from such a perspective that it's really quite an arresting sort of little pitch that he makes, because it's true, I think. So there's a guy on YouTube called Rick Beato, Beato. He's got an awful lot of subscribers. Let me just have a look and tell you how many he's got. Although this might play. I don't know, will it play? I don't want it to blurt sound out. 5.52 million. That's big, right?
That is big.
It's really big. And he's about our age, Eric. He's early 60s, something like that.
Oh.
He's very smart with the music. He's done some brilliant stuff. He's interviewed Dave Gilmour and all sorts of guys.
Oh, blimey. He's up with the big boys, isn't he?
Yeah. He's had them on and all sorts of stuff. And he's a brilliant interviewer because he's passionate about music. But he also talks with a great deal of experience and knowledge about the music industry, what it takes to put records out, why it's a joke. Now, why they all use auto-tune. So you get that kind of skinny in it. And I'm interested, really, because it's just another aspect of this sort of overall cultural decay that we're enduring as everything becomes sort of dehumanized and, just pathetic, really. It's useless. And he's very much in that way. But he also features, excellent musicians. So he's done this thing on AI, but it's from a completely different perspective. So I watched it earlier today. I won't play it. 9 minutes is a bit too much of a haul for everybody. Although you never know, maybe we'll get round to these longer clips at some point in this show's future. So he starts to talk about recording studios. So everybody will know about musical recording studios. They were all the rage forever, ever since things started, because you had to isolate sound. And in the 80s and 90s, well, 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, there were a lot of them. And you had to go to one if you were going to record anything. You had to, because all the equipment was there. It was all soundproofed. You could work really hard, and you had these multi-track studios. Those big things with those sliders that look really cool. I always liked them. Anyway, he was talking about this, and he was talking about the actual financial investment that record companies or production companies had to make to set up a studio or to hire one, like those big mixing desks, like the one that Pink Floyd used to make Dark Side of the Moon. I don't know if you've ever seen any footage of that. This thing's got about 800 channels on it, right? Those things cost $750,000 for one of those. And that was just one thing that you needed. There was tons and tons of other stuff. So, and he goes through all the costs. You've got all the instruments, the microphones that you're paying a daily rate on. You had to borrow money from the bank to do this. You're paying interest on that. You begin to understand why producing records became a particularly sort of expensive proposition. So all the money was in this central location, the studio. I know there were many of them, but that's where it was. The musicians had to go there. They would do their recording. All the skilled staff were there. They cost money. You've got A&R and PR people and all this kind of stuff. And you start totting it all up and you're going, yeah, this is an expensive gig. I can see why it is the way it is. I think actually, by the way, that's one of the reasons why it wasn't all great music in the past, but we had a lot more of it simply because the cost of taking an artiste or a band through to producing these things was considerable, and therefore their sort of talent scouts would work really hard with these people to make sure that they could do stuff. Of course, back then everybody was actually playing their own instruments, which I quite like and think it's absolutely vital that people do that if they're going to get my interest. Anyway, I'm not really interested in all this electronic stuff, never have been. So that's the studio model. Okay, but then he points to the digitalization of music. Now, you remember Napster? Do you anybody here remember Napster in the early days of the internet? We're going back 25.
Yes, I remember Napster.
Late 90s.
The name, but
Yeah.
I can't think where it was.
Well, it was the first sort of breach. They've sort of sealed it up with all sorts of lawsuits and everything, but it was a breach in the music industry's production chain because I can't remember the name of the guy. They took him to court and sued him for millions. It was a file sharing app, the first one, right? So what did everybody share? Music. Like you used to go around to your mate's house and borrow albums off one another, which was, I guess, illegal. Pirate borrowing. Have you paid for that? No, it's my mate, Fred's. He's lent it to me. But they didn't have a music record police back then, thankfully. So that's that's what they did. And it made a huge dent. And there were all these lawsuits. And it's like, who owns this? And can you play music? And I'm still looking at this really with regards to radio and everything, because I do play a little bit of music here. And we are sort of covered by a license. But fundamentally, when you do that, we're straying into the realms of pirate radio. So I just want you all to know that basically, if you're on a show here and I play some music, you are, by extension, pirates. Okay?
Wow,
Why are we called pirates? Because we are. Yes, that was the old one, wasn't it?
Very good.
Do you like that? And
not in the Caribbean, though.
Oh, no, not in the Caribbean. And, okay, so the Napster thing comes along, but also there's some kind of a device. There was a machine that was built by some company called the DigiDivi or something like that. He's got it in this video. And it wasn't cheap. And he was talking about, he was in the music industry. He said, the record label paid for this for us, for his project, his music project at the time. It wasn't cheap. It was about $3,000 or $4,000, but a lot cheaper than a $750,000 mixing desk. And it plugged through to a piece of software, the sort of software that I use here that just let me down at the beginning of the show, something similar, And basically, that was the beginning of musicians being able to record at home. Okay? So you could say it's the decentralization of the music industry. I just said it, so we'll say it, right? You get the drift. Basically, you didn't need to go along to these big centers where you're going to spend an absolute fortune. You could do it piecemeal at home with very sophisticated microphones and all that. Obviously they had techies coming in, but they wanted to get a good sound. And so the whole sort of development of people recording their own stuff at home began through this original device, which went into the back of some specialist PC, which was quite expensive as well, but nowhere near the cost that they were paying prior. And so you've had this happen with the music industry, and now you've got a lot of people producing music, I guess, of various quality. I don't know how much there is being produced. There's probably tons of it, but who's got the ear time to listen to it all? It's an issue it's a bit like all those books I keep banging on about in libraries that, you're never going to get round to read. And someone's going to come up to you and say, you should have read this when you were 16. Should I? Yeah, it would have really saved you a lot of time. Drat and buggery, all that kind of stuff. So there's probably a load of good stuff being made, and we're never going to get to hear it. Simply because the amount of minutes you've got in your life and getting the word out and all this, that, and the other. Although we might, when something's good, grapevine gets going, doesn't it, quite naturally, and things come along, which is cool. So that's what happened with music. Then he starts to talk about AI, and it's the same thing that's happening, because the title is AI Ain't Gonna Work. It's something like that. It's not going to work. Here's the title: How AI Will Fail Like the Music Industry. Okay. It's really, and I thought, this is and the comments are brilliant. Someone said, in 9 minutes, you've just created a much clearer picture of what's going on than anybody from these techie people. So look at AI. In fact, they're building them over here. They've got them everywhere. They've got these massive data centers consuming electricity like it's, going out of fashion. We're told about this all the time, aren't we? These hugely expensive sensors doing all this AI stuff, and then you're going to go use ChatGPT. That's the only one I know. I know a few others, right? Or these AI website builders, which are fantastically useful in terms of time saving, and so on and so forth, to get these rather mundane administrative web tasks done. They're just a dirge, just plowing through code lines and all that. As you know, Eric, from your experience of updating the bloody file every week, right? You just go, because I know you do it, but I bet you don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I just go, oh, bloody irritating.
Well, I keep forgetting. And I wake up next morning and think, oh, shit, I forgot that. And I put it on, So
oh, no, you've been really good recently, working like a Swiss cuckoo clock or whatever. And so what's occurring? Maybe people out there already know about this, but you can run AI, open source AI, on your PC. How about that? Oh. And it doesn't have to be connected to internet. Isn't that interesting? It doesn't have to be. Now, you're going to need something reasonably powerful to do it. Probably a thing with these NVIDIA graphics cards where you get a lot of this extra processing power, which they need. But they have these large language libraries, or LLM, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's a large language library that you can choose. There's loads of these things. Hundreds. I did a quick search today. I went, ooh, I need to look at this. So open source AI agents, and they can talk to one another. You can run it on a PC that's not connected to the internet. One of them, the one that he just mentioned, he said it's got 35 billion, 30 with a B, 35 billion, I'm just going to call them options. That's not the word he uses, but operating fields or whatever. So you can talk to the damn thing on your own machine, not connected to the internet. So the idea of, I think the parallel is absolutely spot on, because what he's basically suggesting, and he illustrates in the presentation, is you're going to get more and more people independently running their own local, he used that word, AI systems. And we need to, because the amount, in other words, instead of people being scared of it, and I understand why, and there's definitely going to be used for bad things. It's already been used for bad things, right? Just like every technology that's ever come along, the bad guys get a hold of it, and all they want to do is use it to extend their power and control over and over and over and over again. Yawn. Because, that's the only game in town for these guys. That's all they know. But this is a rebuff to that. This is the decentralization of AI, and it exists right now. And these things are developing, these open source freebies are developing just as quickly as the mainline stuff like ChatGPT. And I'm going, okay, I need to get my brain around this. Or people have got brains for this. Yeah, because, we understandably whine about and whinge about what the central power is doing to us in all its forms, government bankers, the lot, blah, 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 the small hats, the secret societies, all these sort of goofy organizations that we have to endure, who like to boss us around and just control everything that we do. We've got a rebuff here. There's a sort of slight defensive wall against that. So I got quite encouraged about that. Of course, I'm concerned I haven't got enough time to find out about it thoroughly. So a few brains looking at these sorts of things, but I want to run one. I'm looking at a machine. I'm thinking, right, I'm going to have to budget for this. I want one. I want to see what it could do, because there's loads of little sort of tedious web tasks that I have to do all the time. And when you talk to these things, you can build automation processes. Like my son, for no money on one of these sites, I think it's Base 44, which is very well promoted at the moment. I was talking to him this morning and he said, look, I built this the other day for nothing, for no money, right? And it's a complete sales tracker because he's out and about in his car going to all these outlets and doing things with the nicotine product, okay? And he's really enjoyed it because he's been he's been in a semi-office environment here at home. We've got a space that's sort of like a working space for the whole thing. Yeah. For ever since we started about 2.5 years ago or whatever it was. So he's getting out and getting some fresh. And I said, great, go do it. It's brilliant. But it's got everything in it. It's like, how many miles he's covered, who he's seen. It's just automatic. I went, cool. This is so cool because it just saves so much drudge work, that administrative stuff. And, we've talked here, haven't we, about huge numbers of people about to be thrown out of work that are in that layer of administration in all these organizations. This is going to happen so quick that within 3 to 5 years, I don't think we're going to recognize what it's like around here. I mean, I don't know what you think. But
it could work to our advantage, though.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to ask, how do you get rid of governments? And if it's that intelligent, it'll tell us the route to get rid of governments. So
I think they might do a get rid of government for dummies sort of, the books like for different things. Step 1, do this. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why not? I think we could do that.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of how do we get rid of government? Maybe we can't get rid of it out there. But maybe you can get rid of its influence or reduce it massively in your own space. I think that's at least a good starting point, to think about it like that. So if we want local currencies, and we were talking a lot about crypto last week, it was quite a detailed sort of show, and I am galvanized by that in all sorts of ways, because it means that local people could have a machine or a little group of machines off the internet. This means they never get to see even that bit, right? And you can begin to organize things in a local way with people that you know. I mean, I always thought, even in the early days of the internet, before social networking arrived, right, the real cool thing about the internet for me was email, because it always came to me from people that I knew in real life. We knew one another before the internet started, We didn't I did bump into people slowly on forums and places like that, and that has been great from that point of view, because those forums were specialized, to look at a particular area. And so it's great when you meet people on a similar wavelength, and they've just like we're doing these shows. That's what it's all about, right? So it's cool. And it's brilliant. I would have never have met you without the internet. Half of these people, we would have never even known one another if this technology hadn't existed. That's how much it's changed things and just grooved into stuff. But the idea that we would have a little defensive mechanism decentralized on a local basis, I think is pretty cool. And I'm just looking at a title of another one of his here. Now, this is an hour and 6 minutes, so I wouldn't play that, and I haven't listened to it yet. But this is what he's looking at. This one's called, this is from 5 days ago, They're Not Just Listening, They're Weaponizing Sound. This is really, I just think all these things are to be paid attention to. Well, I like paying attention to them anyway. But so there you go. AI doesn't have to be all bad, but we've got to, those individuals that have got a sort of proclivity for this thing, you need to get your nose in there. We've got a tool that could help us tremendously defend ourselves for a longer period of time. And if that's the best we can do, we should take it. Because you never know I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen with this thing. I mean, it's not the fact that so many people are going to be put out of work. I mean, they're doing lots of jobs which, frankly, are a bit tedious, I think. I mean, who am I to say? Maybe they love them. The main concern is that you're going to have a lot of people without any purpose. What do I get out of bed for on a morning? Don't you think?
Well, I think we could make beautiful architecture. Sorry, I don't mean to chime in there, but
No, sorry, Chris.
I mean, for example, Waltham Abbey. The Victorians rebuilt it, refurbished it, and they did a fantastic job of it. They had craftsmen. That will release people to do work that they want to do, not what they're forced to do. So instead of flipping hamburgers in a takeaway joint, you'll have people, craftspeople, that will, start their lives learning the crafts of years ago. So hopefully we'd have high streets with all this beautiful, beautiful architecture, and people will just be putting their sort of. That's what I hope. And AI robots will be doing the crappy work, like going down the sewers and cleaning and being slaves to us.
But you could probably get AI to assist you in designing these buildings. I mean, I do think that this is. We want to get even. We don't want to beat them. We want to outcompete them, and we probably could. There's enough of us. It's just that I guess we're trained culturally. Well, we are trained culturally to keep looking to sort of authority structures because they've been necessary up to this point. Whether we agree with that or not, they've certainly been unavoidable. They've been unavoidable.
I think we've been programmed to be submissive. That is part of our, and some of us are not, and some of us are.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I really do believe. I mean, whether you believe in the anarchy and all that sort of stuff or not, I don't know. But the fact is, there is evidence that there's something in our DNA that makes us submissive. That's how they can do wars. Because, imagine if they said the truth, like World War One. Say, look, mates, all volunteer en masse, and then you'll come back to absolute poverty, and some of you will be completely disabled, but you'll be treated like crap. People say, what? But no, get out and have a go at the hun and all that. And that's the thing. There's kind of some programming that we have.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you were saying a minute ago, Paul, about them weaponising sound. Well, they've done that through things like pop music, haven't they? And that's used to control how you feel and all the rest of it. And I think what you were saying, Chris, about the use of AI to produce beautiful buildings, I think that's definitely. I reckon that's possible because. I mean, we've got laser cutters now, which I know at the moment it's just using things like MDF, but I'm sure a laser cutter could be used to make nice bricks and like how the old world buildings were made. I'm sure with technology that we've got now, they could make. I'm sure they could make nice cathedrals and make our towns places you want to be rather than places where. Like people just hang out and vandalise and become no-go zones. It needs to be changed that people want to be there and
You're right.
A bit like what we talked about the other day about talking about Prague and so on. Make places where people want to go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to charm in over you there. It's very rude of me, but what I was going to say is that I know it's extremely rude. But the Victorians
so rude.
The rudometer's off the charts.
I know. I can't cope with it, Eric. It's just too much.
I know. But the Victorians found a way of mass producing beautiful pieces of work, pieces of art. And one example is along the side of the Thames, there's these beautiful lamp holders. And there was a competition. And they look like sort of dolphins or fish, but they mass produced them out of cast iron. I think it's cast iron they did. And they did some fantastic thing. Look at Tower Bridge. Look how beautiful that is. And they knew how to do cast iron and steel works and things like that. And I actually think that will come back. I think it will return. So. I really do.
I mean, that's the thing. I saw somebody put some pictures up of like old world street lamps, as we were saying, with all the decorations, and even the lamp itself is a thing of beauty. And then you look at what we've got now, and it's just basically letter L, an L-shaped piece of metal that's completely characterless with a horrible.
Well, if you think about the
the
manufacturing of things like that, or anything really up until relatively recent times, i.e. before the arrival of the PC, which went into businesses and everything like that, even the early days, even sort of minis and mainframes, they weren't held by most companies. The marketing companies got hold of them and stuff like that. But when the PC came along, it became ubiquitous to, there's no company would not have one now. It's like there was a point where no companies had telephones. So they used the telegraph, and then they got telephones, and only a few companies, and so on and so forth. It's just natural progression of these things. I think that if you think about what it would take in the past to do those things, it was a lot. You go and look at, we've talked about it before, haven't we, Eric, about these draftsmen's offices with guys in waistcoats and pencils stuck behind their ears. And there's a lot of them. It's a lot of work to do, and you've got quantity surveyors, and you've got engineers who are responsible for just one component and what rivets we're going to use, and it's all worked out with pencils and people with slide drills. That's what it took to do it, because you've got to get it right, and it was gotten right. But you've got that's what you would call almost like the grind work that had to be done. It's what gives it value as well, and it's why only large organisations could do it, because a bloke in his shed couldn't do that. It's not possible to do it, but it is now possible to do it. You could design something and you could get this, your AI to go, look, can you do all the calculations on this? Yeah, give us half an hour. I'll work it all out. I mean, there's one where somebody's wanting to make a product and sort of feeding the information into this thing. And it says, right, this is what you do. And you'll have a product in your hand in 8 days from scratch, right? It's so... And one of the things I was just thinking then is, how the fear-mongering lingers around AI, and it is fear-mongering. I mean, we've got to keep an eye peeled on it as well. I'm not saying this is the ultimate panacea, because we had things coming, but this is the situation that we're in. Whether we like it or not, this stuff is here, and it's going to have an effect. And I think we need to sort of, big up and take responsibility for the situation that we're in. But whilst you're in fear, you don't think how we could use it creatively for what we want. We could just go direct. I mean, I do think that this is... maybe I'm getting carried away. You go, well, I've only got so many hours. Yeah, I understand. But this is almost like what we're resenting as well, to some degree, is changing our habits, our daily behaviours. We always resent that. And yet, life has really been always about that to some degree, hasn't it? Anyway, look, we're carrying with this on the other side of the break. We're at the end of the first hour. You listen to Paul English Live here on WBN 324 at now 5 o'clock. US Eastern time, because we started an hour later as far as American people are concerned, but same time over here. There's only a 4-hour time gap, blah, 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 blah. Alice Gorgeous sent me a song during the week. Yeah. Hi, Alice. Hope you're listening. She sent me a really very interesting song, and she said, I think it's cracking, and I like the lyrics, and I listened to it, and I think she's absolutely right. It's called... Oh, you'll work it out. Anyway, we'll tell you afterwards. Chuck Brodsky is the... this is quite nice. About 4 or 5 minutes long. We'll be with you on the other side of this.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. See you squirm, see you perspire. Not a word you say is true. There's never been one out of you. Smoke and mirrors, bait and switch. You and your friends are getting rich. Picking pockets and pulling strings. And other more despicable things. Liar, liar, pants on fire, preaching only to the choir. Photo op in front of the steeple. How did you manage to fool these people? You talk the lingo, dress the part, even put your hand over your heart. Bomber jacket, emperor's clothes, you can't even reach the end of your nose. Liar, liar, pants on fire, chain of command doesn't get any higher. Orders come down from the top, punish the guy that pushes the mop. Throw away the key, forget about bail. Likes you, ought to rot in jail. Guilty, guilty of the highest crimes and the lowest ones at the very same time. Liar, liar, pants on fire, teleprompter, a hidden wire. Who's this God that speaks to you? Who would authorize these things you do? Bend the rules, twist the facts, make excuses, cover your tracks. Why won't you let anybody see flag-rigged coffins on TV? Liar, liar, you've been found out. Whistleblowers, they talked about how you classify and you cook the books for the benefit of a bunch of crooks. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Liar, liar, your pants are on fire. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Liar, 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 liar. You're a liar, 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 liar. You're a liar. You liar. Liar, liar, pants are on fire.
And that was, if you didn't get it from the lyrics, Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire. How about that? Does anybody spring to mind, Eric and Paul, when you think about
Was
that
it played in
sentiment?
a Nickelodeon, was it? Sorry. Pants on fire.
Alice, thank you very much for that. I quite liked that. He obviously had a slight nasally Bob Dylan-esque type twang to the way he was singing, but yeah, that was a jolly good song. I don't know whether it was naughty for me to play it. If it is, I'm going to music prison, which is a pity. At least it's quite musical and all that kind of stuff. I saw a comment also in the chat about nicotine. Someone was talking about nicotine just then, and we've talked about it on and off. I don't want to make a big thing about nicotine tonight, although we could do. But Mary wrote to me, and she'd bought some knickknacks. And she sent me an email, and she said, I listened to your show, not live, so she won't be hearing this now. I guess she might be in a different time zone or whatever. And she said, I bought some, and I took one, and I don't feel so well, so I want to send them back to you or Eric. Could you send me your address? I thought, I'm not having this. So I wrote back to her. I said, I understand. I said, when I first, there are certain side effects that you can get if you've not sort of taken pouches or whatever, or patches or anything. And they include, I might have mentioned it here before as well, they include a slight constriction of the throat so that you can't swallow, which can be a little disconcerting, only in the early stages, right? And you can get quite thirsty. You can get lightheaded. Yeah, sort of slight wooziness in the head, which is, I think, what she had. And also hiccups. And guess what? Today I took one, and these are the sounds that I was making. Oh, it didn't come through, did it? In fact, it'll come through
silence.
now.
It went to
Don't worry.
silence. It made you dumb.
It's going to come through now. This is the sound that I was making. I just thought you ought to know that when I said you hiccup, that's what I sounded like. It's actually ridiculous. I felt like I was in a cartoon. Can you do a cartoon effect of someone having hiccups? And that was me earlier today. I just wanted to share my embarrassment with you. We've had an embarrassing start to the show. I thought we ought to carry the theme on. So there we go. I don't want to hide
it. Was strangling a squirrel then for a second.
Yeah, it was incredibly. I played it quite quietly then. It's very loud in the house. And my son looked at me and said, "That's ridiculous." I said, "It is. It is. It is." I got hysterical doing it. I couldn't stop. Anyway, there you go.
It gives me a slight sore throat. That's what I found. I've had a slight, when I say it's like burns your throat. That's what I found.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I find that some of them do, which is, although I get used to it, there's one, wintergreen does that. It's quite a sort of acrid, sort of intense thing at first, but it's great with a cup of coffee, Eric, if you drink coffee. I just thought I'd let you know.
Really?
Yeah.
I might try that tomorrow, because I've just bought some lemon ones from you. I haven't tried them yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're nice. They're good. They're pretty cool. I flogged loads last night at the pub. Am I right, old wheeler dealer? It's really funny because I can make out I'm a drug dealer, which I quite enjoy doing. Yeah, come round the car, I've got some in the boot and all that kind of stuff. It was great.
I'll tell you what I would recommend though, and I don't know if any of you tried this, black seed oil.
I've got some. Yeah.
I've been having a spoonful of that each. I had my first drop on Sunday. I didn't want to have it before I go to work in case it made me Ralph everywhere. Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd have it on a Sunday, just see how it went. I'll tell you what, brain fog cleared instantly. Absolutely amazing stuff. It's a bit spicy, but yeah, amazing stuff.
It is, and it's like oil. It looks like black, the darkest oil you ever looked at in your life, doesn't it? It's really very sort of thingy. Yeah, and it's quite an intense little hit in the mouth, isn't it? It's quite a sort of savage, brutal little taste, isn't it?
A bit spicy,
bit spicy.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, black seed oil. Yeah, it's very good. Actually, I haven't taken any for a little. Mm-hmm.
And that's very good for all your vitamins and that. But the trouble is, you have to hide the taste, because with me in the morning, and it went about, you can't actually explain. It just sort of, if you're a bit tired, do they actually, do you find they wake you up a bit, the knickknacks?
I've not asked what these knickknacks are. Because knickknacks in my world are little corn crisps.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, knickknacks, they're this nicotine lozenge. So, can I read it right? Yeah. Nunes Arb says, which ones are you using, Paul? I'm a knickknackist. I take knickknacks, which are a lozenge. They're like tree ball mints. I don't know if that means anything to you. Like, or a polo mint, because I don't know what part of the world you're in. But they're like a lozenge, and you just stick them in your gum and they dissolve slowly. Nobody knows you've got one. Well, you sometimes know that I've got one in because I choke here on the show and cough because I'm speaking so quickly. It goes down the wrong way. But you get them from nicotonic.com. There we are. I'm doing a bit more internal promo. NICO. I'll type it in the chat. nicotonic.com. And they're great. We've got a lot of customers. I've got quite a lot, and they love it, and they keep coming back and buying more, and it's good. Now, Brian Ardis, I'm not even allowed to talk about it in this way, I don't think. You know how you're restricted from saying certain things about products and stuff like that? What I will say is Brian Ardis, if you're not familiar, Bryan, surname Ardis, he did an awful lot of stuff about the benefits of nicotine, and they're considerable. It's not just improved mental acuity, which you do get, a bit like, Paul, what you were saying there about the black seed oil. I don't have brain fog. I don't. No. And I don't get as mentally tired as quickly as I used to because of it. You can say, well, you're just pumping your brain full of performance-enhancing drugs. Yes, but it's not actually. It's quite a natural thing. And one of the things that Ardis was talking about to do with the lurgy is in all the cells in your body, you have a thing that is literally called, I mean, it's in the Latin, but it means nicotine receptor. All your cells have got one. And what was happening with people that get lurgies, the big one, is that the cells, the poisonous stuff, the cack that was in their bloodstream, was attaching itself to the nicotine receptor on the cells, so that when you start to take nicotine, the nicotine particles come along in your bloodstream and they go, "Oi, mate, I live here," and it kicks it out and flushes out your bloodstream, which is one of the reasons why when you first start taking it, you can have these little side effects, because you're basically decoking. There's a better word for it than that, is it? What's it called? I just call
Detox in your body.
That's
basically.
it, detox, but I call it decoking. You're getting rid of a lot of guff out of your body. Another positive that I've found is, do you ever get a sort of slightly stuffy nose? Where it's just not fully clogged, but just irritatingly you're not breathing freely. Well, I've been breathing freely through my nose for the last couple of years. That was the first thing I noticed, actually, is that the gunk that it goes into your body, and sort of, it's your body trying to get rid of gunk. And that's why colds are good. He's going, right, we're going to have a big decoking session and you're going to be under the weather for a few days, but I'm getting all this stuff out of you because it's clogging everything up. So it just does it quite naturally. No wrong with a cold. People sort of try to stave them off. Have them. They're brilliant for you. They boost your body and everything, and just take a few days off. Oh, I don't feel good. Well, no, of course not. But so what? It's your body. Your body knows what to do. Doctors don't. Bottom line, really.
Well, I had a cold coming on. I had a cold coming on once. It's like a flu-y cold. And I was stopped. This is you don't have spot checks now, but a police stopped me on what is called a stop check. It's pulling cars in and that. So he said, I said, "What is this?" She said, "It's a spot check." I said, "Well, I've got a pimple here. I've got a spot there." He didn't have a sense of humour. But anyway, what happened? He was looking round and all this, and there was bored. These coppers just wanted something to do.
Yeah.
So I got out and I was just about to sneeze, and he said, "What's this?" Because I made my own crook lock. I still got it. He said, "What's this? Looks like a weapon." I said, "No, it's a crook lock." So I put it on the steering. He said, "Oh." He looked round. Tax, look, he's always taxes in, and they looked really fed up. They couldn't find anything, so I felt a sneeze coming on, and it's a real beginning of a cold sneeze. So I thought, I don't think I'll use my handkerchief. I just went all over him. I thought, there's a bit of
what a
germ
wonderful
warfare.
fellow.
Yes, I thought, right, you bastard, for stopping me. You can have my cold, and I sneezed all over him. I wouldn't normally do that, but he's a real arrogant pig, this bloke. And there was an officer next to him, and he's trying to show off and all that. Anyway, they couldn't get me anything. He said, "You're a local man." I said, "It depends on what you call local." I said, "Well, I just live down the road." All right, then. I'll let you go. I thought, well, it's must have said, "Oh, I've done something wrong, but he's letting me go." I hadn't done anything wrong. I was really peed off, actually.
Well, they have to give directives all the time. They're loading tosses,
well, that's it. But anyway, I hope he got my cold, because this was years ago. This is when I was a teenager. But I'll never forget it. I actually sneezed all over him. He got the whole bloody lot. I'm not normally like that, but it really irritates me.
You're not normally like that. No. Oh, what a pity.
No. I still think the coughs and sneezes are our body's way of just saying, like when people eat and drink and stuff, I always find that's the body saying, "I don't like that," or "I don't like this." It's telling you. I was thinking that. The same with, like I say, with the flus and the colds. It's if you're eating a lot of sugar, the body's got to get rid of it, and that's how it does it, isn't it? There you go.
Since I've had this keto diet, I used to have eczema. I haven't got eczema at all now, and I used to have very, very bad hay fever. I sneeze about once or twice, and that's about it, really.
Yeah.
If its pollen's pretty high, but it doesn't really bother me now. And once upon a time I couldn't go up my bike. My hay fever was so bad, my eyes were streaming. Now it doesn't bother me at all. I don't get it at all.
When did you last go out on the bike, Eric? When did you last go out on the bike?
The last time I went on my bike was last year in November. I haven't been out since, because it's been wee and rain, and I'm a fair weather cyclist. I don't go out on my bike when it's
Well, I asked because I went out on mine, or the house bike.
You bitch.
The other day, I'm terribly sorry, and it was a fine day, although I was being pursued by a particularly irritating cloud that was raining on just me. It was quite irritating, but it was a sunny day. It was Wednesday, where are we now, Thursday? No, it's Tuesday. I went out on Tuesday. I had to go for a haircut. Didn't have a car available at the time. So got on the bike, and I've not ridden the bike for quite a while, and it was about 40 minutes that I was on the bike. I thought, I just realised my legs are fine, right? Because I've ridden a bike for years. My lungs seem to be okay. But the bits that hurt are the bits that I'm going to talk about. First of all, there was my rear end, right, which is is about as firm. I mean, it's shapely, everybody. Don't worry. It's not a soggy, terrible-looking thing. But its inner resilience has passed for the moment. And I thought, oh, good. And I've got, actually, it's not even a racing saddle I've got. It's a sort of semi-racing saddle that I have on all my bikes. And I thought, bloody hell, my rear. But I was laughing as I was going along. I thought, oh boy, this is so soft. You know, I can't, right? But the other bit that hurt even more was my neck. Holy moly. Yes. Just keep my. It's not that I couldn't do it, but I just thought, you spend so long sitting down looking at screens. And I've got my screens up in the air. I did this years ago because I thought if I have it sort of at eye level or below, I'm going to end up with a crook neck. Because you do. I'm thinking, I'm sitting at the machine X hours a day, 6 days a week, and all this, that, and the other. This is not good. So that's help. I'm thinking I need to make them even higher. So I'm almost putting them on the ceiling so that I'm looking at them that way.
Well, your eyes should always be level with the top of the screen. So
with the top of the screen?
Yeah.
Well, my eyes are level with the bottom of the screen so that I just have to look up a bit. This stops you getting soggy chin. No, it's not. No, it's fine. It's good. It's not giving me. I was getting on the bike. I had to crank back even more because, your body's horizontal as you are gearing up for speed. Eric knows about this and all that kind of stuff.
Drop handlebar jobby? Is it?
I've got both. I've got both. I've got quite a collection here. So no, I actually got on a mountain bike, which I do like mountain bikes. They're pretty cool, I think. And this is an old one, which I like even more.
I've got an old one.
Well, I go past the mountain bike shop. It's like 899 quid for a bike. I'm going, really? Okay, bye. I don't know. They're just, and they never look quite right. So this is just right, is this thing. It looks like the sort of bikes I had when I was a kid. We used to take racing frames and then put drop handlebars on them, ape hangers. You remember all that kind of, and cow on handlebars?
Yes.
All that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So,
although I was never allowed to have
brilliant.
a bike when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So that's why I made up for it now. But I paid a fortune for my mountain bike.
Did you?
£8. Seriously. Yeah, I paid £8 for it.
Saved up for that, eh? That took a little while. Bit of thrift.
Well,
to
as
get
regular cyclists, I haven't cycled for a while, and I'm going to lower the tone just briefly. Do you find that if you've got a fart coming, that when you're on a push bike, it's far louder than anywhere else?
Yes.
Paul, I think we need to get some footage of this. This sounds interesting.
Why do you think they got a slot in the middle of the saddle? It's to let the farts out, isn't it? So as you go along the road.
Never go any faster, do you? Even when it's jet propelled.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. I suppose you can achieve a deep reverberating sound at certain times on that thing, but of course, yes, yeah. Oh, it's the old. I've got the old racing saddles. The thing is, your backside gets used to it, but the first few days, it doesn't like it very much. But I think it's good. And if it's any consolation, the French live forever, don't they, by just putting onions around their neck and berets on their head and then riding their bicycles forever. Isn't that how it works? Maybe the onions and the beret are a key part of the whole thing. But it's good. Yes. It's jolly good.
Oh, it's very good, yes. But people call me Richard Head when I'm on my front bike.
Do they really?
Yes. Hey, look, that Richard Head going along there. And also show me that I've still got 2 wheels on my bike by sticking 2 fingers up. That's good of them, isn't it? You've got two wheels on your bike. But
it's nice to have the confirmation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, there's some good comments. We've
yes.
struck a nerve with saddles. I'll tell you, lots of saddle comments coming in on YouTube. This is a biggie.
Yes.
Yeah, so John Pontes says, I'm a cyclist and saddle fitness is a thing. Absolutely, it is. I'll get it back. I used to have my backside was made out of cast iron at one point because I just lived on my bike. Actually, that was about 20 years ago. When I got into my mid-40s, I got back into biking in a big way. And I'd love to do it again, but I'd have no time to do it, to do anything else. It's a time monster. I'd go out riding for 3 hours.
That's right.
On a 3-hour run and so come back and I go, oh, well, there's most of the day gone because you need an hour to recover. You have a shower, you go, that's it, it's all gone. It's a big deal. But it's pretty good when you get sort of fit. It's not as if at my age I'm looking for high speed, but you do get that sort of endurance thing. I felt brilliant, by the way, when I got off the bike. I felt really good. It's because it was a headwind all the way back, and I thought, do I sneak through all the streets, or do I go out on the coast? I thought, I'll go to the coast and have the headwind. So it was slow, and it was a good little push. It wasn't a big run. It's only 20 minutes, right? It's nothing. I used to go out for hours, but I felt great afterwards. It's the first time I've pushed my body to breathe deeper than just being in relaxed for a couple of years. So I've just not had the time. So, and I had my endorphin rush or whatever it's called that you get, and I thought, I need to do a bit more of this. I felt really great, actually.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I've actually found that now to get down to the town, if I go by car, you're talking about 15, 20 minutes by the time you parked up.
Mm-hmm.
If you go by bike, it's about 20, 25 minutes. There's not that much difference in it. And, of course, with the bike, you go to exactly where you don't have to worry about parking. And the thing I like about bikes is that when you're in your car, you've got to keep an eye open for... I mean, I'm not a speed merchant, but you've got rules, regulations, speed cameras, God knows what here, there and everywhere. You don't give a monkeys about that on your push bike because you can't get done for speeding on a bike.
Well, some of the cyclists are a bit mad. I mean, and I've been one for donkey's years, and some of them are a bit cocky and arrogant and do need a clip. They do.
I agree.
Not you, Eric. I wouldn't clip you, but they do. Some of them just need hey, what you do? They're mad. Some of them. The thing is, when you get on that bike and you're going, you think, I'll just go over that zebra crossing and around that bollard. You can't help it. It's fun. You become a big kid on a bike again. A big kid. The good comment up here as well. What was this one? About saddles. Yeah, from Mike Mantis. You might know this one. You both might know this. He says, real men, he's talking about you and me, Eric. Real men, and probably you, Paul, as well on your bike. Real men use Brooks saddles. They do. My first saddle was a Brooks. Do you ever have a Brooks saddle? These leather.
Yes,
yeah, fantastic. I had my dad's. My dad gave me one. He bought it in the 1950s. And then we built this bike when I was about 13. He built my bike, did my dad. It was just the most exciting day of my life, I think, ever. I've never had, in terms of getting a thing, that bike was me free. I just went everywhere all over Yorkshire on it. As soon as I got it, I just went, right, I'm off, bye. Every night of the week, I'd ride out to Church Fenton RAF field and everything and just sit. And it was brilliant. I just really remember all those years. And I had a Brooks saddle then. Yeah, fantastic.
I had one, but all the leather felt a bit, so I just had the springs.
It's because of the sheer fury and force and energy going through your rear end, Eric. That's why it felt a bit. That's what it is.
It's
all that power.
When I bought, it's when I bought my first bike. That was it. But the thing is that I've actually found that with cycling, you do once you get super fit on it, it's a fantastic feeling. It really is. But I think that when I go out, I'm hoping to go out tomorrow if it's if weather's okay. I will be puffing and panting tomorrow because it's surprising how unfit you get in a very short amount of time when you don't keep up cycling. I was saying November, was it November, December, January, February? Yeah, it's about 5 months. So I've got, but it's quite hilly where I live, so it's all right going. It's coming back. You're going up a hill. But
Alice is inspiring me here as well. And you, Eric, she says, my dad was a cyclist, 40-mile rides when he was 70 odd. I'm going to get back into it. I've got some great we've got the South Downs Way here, which is, I once did 40 miles of it and I was absolutely crushed physically. It's 110 miles, this thing. And if you ride it, it's an 11 to 13 hour ride for a fit guy. It's an absolute monster of a ride. 110 miles of uphill, down dale, rocks, all the lot. And I'm really into road cycling, and I'd seen people get hit and stuff and all that kind of stuff. First ride I ever went on when I was 14, this guy drove into the back of a bus and completely destroyed his bike. He bent all the cross frame and the whole, it just caved in. It was an Italian thing that he'd spent a bloody fortune on, made out of light tubing. It wasn't Reynolds, you see, 501. That's the problem. You needed that tubing. So I need to get back on the bike. Yeah, it is fun. I'm going to have to get it done up. I love mountain bikes. Yeah.
I quite often go for lengthy walks and stuff when time permits.
Yeah, they're cool.
In particular, on a Sunday, I go for a nice lengthy walk, and I'm forced
They're good
to go
for thinking, aren't they?
shopping.
Don't you find the walk good thinking time? It really is the best, actually.
Yes.
Better than a bike. I can't think when I'm on a bike. I'm having too much fun.
I agree.
I'm thinking, hill.
I agree with you. Yes, walking is better for thinking. But But I'll tell you what has gone out now. That's Sturmey Archer gears. My dad loves Sturmey Archer gears.
Oh, yes.
And the Sturmey Archer place was in Stevenage in Hertfordshire.
Yep.
And Americans used to come over to the American Air Force Base, which was nearby. I think it was Chicksands. And over in America, they had 12-speed Sturmey Archers, but over in this country, we only had 3 and 5. And they used to think you could get the 12-speed in this country. And I remember talking to a bike shop in Stevenage, and a bloke said they'd come in here and say, "Oh, we got a 12-speed Sturmey Archer," and they say, he'd say no. He said, "Well, hang on, the factory is actually in Stevenage that's producing them." He said, "Yeah, but that's for export only." He said, "If we want a 12-speed, we'll have to send to the States to get it shipped over here, because even though they're just made up the road about half a mile away, they don't sell them in Europe. They're only for export to America."
Yeah,
which
cool.
was really weird.
Right. Yeah.
But
no, I remember that. I didn't like them. I hated them. I wanted a derailleur gear changer, and I couldn't afford that when I was a kid. So I rode fixed wheel for 4.5 years. And I tell you, it was amazing. I was so strong when I was about 14 or 15. And but I got to, you knocked 10 bells out of me from your size going up a hill. I was okay until I got to about 16 and 17, and then I just got bigger and stronger, and the buggers, those jackrabbit lads that are like, they just go past you up a hill, and I'm going, I was so upset because I wanted to be Eddie Merckx. Did you want to be? I wanted to be Eddie Merckx, right? He used to be on World of Sport with Dickie Davies. I just thought he was the most awesome guy ever. I used to get all these sort of international racing magazines from this bike shop up the road. And in Yorkshire, bikes are a big deal. They really are. They're massive. It was. I mean, it might be in other counties, but up there were bike shops everywhere. The clubs were massive. I joined a thing called Middleton Road Club. We'd go out on a run. There'd be about 40 of us. You got these training nights, like 80 riders. It was just, you're like a motorbike mob, but without a motorbike. But it was great. It was really, really good. And eating, soggy cheese and tomato sandwiches by a stone wall in Yorkshire on a cold November afternoon. That's bloody living for you. It was great. I loved it, actually.
Oh, it is. It
toughened me up.
It is great. But I'll tell you what gets me. Now, there's all this thing about indexed gears. Now, I've got a bike which has got indexed gears. Yeah. But I've also got a bike that has friction shift gears where you change gear and it's down on the tube. It's not on the handlebars. And I prefer that bike because I can get into top gear faster than index gears can. So I can go from bottom to top gear almost instantly. Zoom! Whereas with an index gear, you're going click, 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 click. And it's much quicker, much better. I've found, so I prefer friction gears to indexed.
I loved riding fixed wheel. I have to say, I loved it because my dad rode it. I said, "What did you ride?" He said, "Fixed wheel." I said, "Right, I'm having that then." So he said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah," and it did work. And a lot of guys in the club, about 3 or 4 other guys my age, also rode fixed wheel to get really fit in the winter. Everybody put fixed wheel on in the winter. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, where you can't stop pedaling. You actually cannot freewheel. You're pedaling all the time. You have to do it. So, because the gears, it's like a track bike.
Yes, right. That's right. Yeah. But there is a single gear where you can actually, if you turn the wheel around the other way round, you get a single gear. Because I actually found the frame of a track bike, and it was a bit smashed up. It had literally fallen off the back of the lorry. Somebody had scrapped it, and as the lorry went around the corner, it fell off the back. And somebody had driven over it. Anyway, I repaired it, and I repaired the frame and everything. And this is just single gear, and it's all right for just nipping around a corner because any distance, But the trouble is, it's got the saddle is a BSA. Have you heard of a BSA?
Yeah.
Bloody sore backside.
Yeah, really.
Yes.
Jay Nunes. I don't know how to pronounce it. Jay Nunes Arb writes, "I reckon Eric's got a chopper." What do you think, Eric?
I can't stand it.
It's just the way he's sat.
No, it's the way I ride. Yes, I had a big chopper,
Anybody just tuning in might think, why are we talking about bicycles? Well, they're part of a world conspiracy, of course, of bicycles, aren't they? So, no, seriously, right. By the way, if you want to nudge the conversation in any direction, type if you want to, or call in. You can call in. Go to paulenglishlive.com. And on the page there at paulenglishlive.com, you'll see a link that says call in. Click it, it'll bring you through the studio. We'd be happy to hear from you. And you can knock us off the bike thing.
That's right. But I'll tell you something else, another idea. What the Germans are doing, it's come from Germany, I think. They're actually making bike caravans out of polystyrene. Seriously.
Yeah.
So you'll have the two wheels at the back and obviously a kind of the mains frame. But the top, for lightweightness, they're making out of polystyrene. And, of course, the good thing about it is you go camping, you don't have to worry about a tent. It doesn't matter if it's raining. Just get inside it. There's your bed all made, everything. Yeah. And these people are cycling all around the Netherlands and all over the continent. Fantastic idea. And they're getting quite popular. But I don't think you can buy these caravans. You've got to make them yourself. So
what happens if it's really, really, really windy? Because I mean, we all know if you've got if you have a TV and it's got polystyrene around it, they just go flying off.
Yeah. I agree with you, but there's a Polish bloke that's made one. I'm not sure if it's polystyrene, but bloody hell, it's luxurious inside. He sits in there, and he has these little panels that he pulls out when he goes to sleep. He's got heating in there. He's got everything. You name it, it's in there. It's a little tiny thing, but he tows it with an electric bike. But some people just do it with ordinary bikes. But you've got quite a bit of weight that you've got to carry along with you. I mean, but you've got stoves, you've got your camping stuff, you've got everything in there.
Should we go out and be jolly campers on bikes, Eric, like they were in the 50s, like five go on an adventure?
Let's be camp.
I say, Eric, fancy a bike ride? Okay, come on, Sally, let's go. Bip, bip. And we could have the dog running by the side, and we could all giggle and all that kind of stuff. It'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. Exo writes, he says, fixed wheel bikes will smash your shins to bits at some point when you underestimate the stopping speed. Well, if you were to underestimate the stopping speed, there's a possibility of that happening. But in my experience, what happens is when you're riding fixed wheel all the time, your bike handling skills go through the roof, and your anticipation of things is improved because you know that might happen. So you can't just sort of lollygag and freewheel and stuff and all that kind of stuff. It didn't stop me hitting a brick wall, though. Once I nearly went into a river. I came down this hill so quick. The good thing about fixed wheel is you can backpedal. You can use it as an extra brake. So you actually really push back on the pedals, when your legs are flying around. And but I still hit this wall, which was quite something. Oh, that was fun. Anyway, look, speaking of
highly dangerous.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something else nice about a single. I've got a single gear. That is, you have to think about when you've got a geared bike, what gear you're in, where you're going. But you don't have to think about that because you've only got one gear, and you can have quite a nice, relaxing cycle.
Easy to maintain as well. Yeah, it's for lazy people like me. And all. The thing is, I just couldn't afford gears. I mean, I know I'm sounding like I couldn't afford a 5-gear set to put on the bike. So that was that. I couldn't do it. It was just not possible. And also,
do you oil your chain or do you use paraffin? Because some people use was it candle wax?
We used to take it off and put it in petrol, I think, to clean all the gunk off, and then I'd oil it lightly. Yeah, that's what we used to do, something like that. It's all fun, and you get covered in crap, and it's great as a kid. You want to get covered in stuff. It's really good stuff. Now, just moving the topic on, but still into sort of transport slightly, and this is going to sound, I run the possibility of boring people, but this is from a similar context to when we were talking about oil and also culture and other things. Now, I've mentioned here before in the past that there's basically only 2 things I tend to watch on TV for airing my head off, like downtime from away from all of the stuff. I don't mean bicycles. We've not been talking about so many intense things tonight, but or the great conspiracy or whatever we want to call it, the great hullabaloo that's been taking place for a long time. But the 2 things I watch are tennis, right? Because I just loved it as a kid, and I kind of like it because I think it's an honest sport. And I like that. Golf's also pretty similar in that regard. Many other sports leave me dead now. I can't be bothered with them. So it's just a bit of boy time for me. I know what I'm doing, and I act like a big kid in front of the TV, and then I turn it off. It's just sort of like getting in touch with your childhood again, and I find it quite refreshing. The other one is motor racing, particularly Formula One, which I've watched practically every race since 1984. So that's a bit of a confession, isn't it? And sometimes I don't even know why I'm watching it. Now, do you guys watch it or follow it or pay any interest to it? Is it of no interest? I don't mind.
No,
I don't. I'm one of these. I don't watch any sport at all.
Right.
Seriously, I've never been interested in sport, so it doesn't interest me. You know.
Well, I don't watch anything else much for the simple reason I'm not really. I mean, I'm going to watch this film, The International. We had that clip with Clive Owen, the banking thing, the scene the other week. You remember that? Where they're talking, that looks good. So I've got that lined up to watch this weekend, and I will watch that. But I can't get into these long series or anything like that because it only takes usually about 15 or 20 minutes before I see some socially engineered piece of crap in the script, and it's just off. I can't, I'm not having it. I'm just going, can't anybody do something that's about us? I don't want multicultural TV. I'm not interested. It's pathetic, most of it. But Formula One has just suddenly become pathetic. It's become really weird. Now, they've only had one race this year, but this taps into this whole ecology, carbon dioxide horse shit that's flying around. And what they've done is, the reason why I used to get into it, or why I was into it, and still want to be, so I'll probably try and watch a bit, but I'm going to struggle with it a lot now, is that I thought it was one of those arenas where the guys that were doing it, and I'm talking specifically, I guess, about the 80s and the 90s, right? They were doing a thing that was, by very definition, pretty dangerous. And if you've ever seen these cars move, you've got to see them in real life. It's quite a thing, right? They're like jets on wheels. They're just ridiculously, they're amazing. And when they were driving back in the 80s, and even before that, Jim Clark is still my hero from when I was a kid, right? Because he's got the coolest name ever. It's just two syllables, Jim Clark. And he was so brilliant. And, of course, he died young because it was very, very dangerous in the 60s and 70s. They were dying all the time. But their courage at what they do, it's, and everybody thinks, well, I could get in that and drive it quick. You couldn't. I don't think you could, right? And it used to come across when you watched them that you couldn't do that. Rally drivers, of course, are maniacs. I don't know if you've ever seen rally driving. So it's the fact that it's an arena where male courage is on display. That's part of its attraction to me. And there's not many arenas where that's left, okay? I guess the biggest one that I can think of, which is off the charts, almost mad, is the Isle of Man TT. You ever seen any clips of that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, blimey. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And that's where the motorbikes leave the ground, don't they? And when they go over that hump...
Well, someone dies there every year. There's a death every year, practically. It's the most dangerous thing ever. There's like 140 people died in 100 years, right? It's seriously like... It's just... And people go, oh, you've got to stop this. And you go, no, you don't stop it. People want to do this. And you've got to... I just think it's amazing. And someone I saw a comment said, I'm surprised these guys can go so fast considering the size of their testicles. Right? Because I thought it's an apt comment. And if you haven't... it's on my bucket list. There's a couple of things I want to do. I want to go to the States and see the Indy 500. Yeah, they're going around in circles, but at 240 mile an hour into a corner is of great interest to me, right? And I'm cool with it. And it's me being a big kid, right? It's not me being serious, Paul, looking at all these things. I have to have downtime. But the Isle of Man TT stuff is just completely berserk. I mean, it's just amazingly, and it's nuts.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't seen any of the videos shot by people that go, and they shoot it every year, they're sat next to the road. The bike goes past them at 190 mile an hour, 3 feet away. In real life, there's no safety barriers, and people go there for that rush. And there used to be a lot of things like that, and you can deal with it. You can't deal with it if a bike hits you 190 mile an hour. You're dead, right? We get that, but it's a spectacular display of courage, and it's phenomenal, and it's that kind of quality in manliness that has been leaked out of the world. You can feel it. We're living in a more... Every year it's more effeminized, is the whole of culture. It's softer. You can't say... All of these things. So I've got a subtext going on when I watch this stuff. What they've done, though, with Formula One, the engines used to be the most amazing sounding things ever. To me, like rocket, the V10s revving at 17,000 RPM, just howling. I used to go up to, I had a lot of friends live up near Silverstone. Well, when I say near, 40 miles away. And when they were testing, you could hear it 40 miles away, and it was coming over. And I thought, I can understand why the neighbours
might... What about hot rods?
Hot rods are big.
Those things.
Yeah.
But they're going to electrify it all, and there's a bloke who's a journalist on hot rods, and he said, when they electrify it, you will have no spectators at all. It's gone. They've just done that with these engines. What they've done is they've had
a very big technical change to the way that they put these cars together. So they've had electrical power in them, which is part of this push for us to all get used to electric stuff, right? This is what I'm going, what are they doing here? What's the point? People that like it as a sport are not happy. Old gits like me. I think young people that are coming into it just think it's all glammy. They've glamorized it all through a Netflix series called Drive to Survive and all this kind of stuff. And it's all about their girlfriends and what shoes they're wearing. And it's not actually all about that. It's pretty good, to be quite honest. But it's a sort of glossified celebrity version of the whole thing, and it's removed the sort of grease monkeys from the whole thing. I used to love the fact that you'd see all these mechanics, rebuilding cars covered. I don't know why you like that stuff, but I do. I just thought, great, I know what that'd take, knuckles getting skinned and all that kind of stuff, and they're really into it, and that was part of the appeal to me. Call me a bit weird, I probably am, but what they've done is they've equalized the power this year from the electric side and the internal combustion side. It's 50-50. And it's changed the whole nature of the sport. And so why has it done that? Because the drivers are coasting through high-speed corners. They take their foot off the gas. You go, why? Why would they do that? It's to recharge the bloody battery. And it's turned into like a video game. It's ridiculous. Anybody can press a button and they get so much more power. They shoot past these other cars. And the commentators are going, oh, another great overtaking move. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, that's a joke, mate. It's not an overtaking move. It's just some guy just happened to be able to press the button. And many of the drivers have come out and said, this ain't driving. And they've removed, the whole thing was, who's got the courage to go into the corner quicker and hit the brakes at the last possible minute to get past the other guy? And it would take many laps to do it. That was part of the compelling reason. You say, is that guy's, I'm a nerd. If you don't understand what's going on with the cars, you can't really get out of the sport because you just think they're all going round and round and it's just a big traffic jam. Yeah. I get that from a certain perspective. That's not what I'm seeing, and it's what people who follow the sport, they don't see either. Tons of videos have come out of people recently saying they've sucked the soul out of the sport. And I think this is all part of, it's part of this agenda to sort of nullify vivid living, for want of a better phrase, in these extraordinary things that people do. Motor racing is just one of them, right? The arenas are being fluffified. They're being turned into something pointless. They're removing the very qualities in human beings which we're interested in are being replaced by technology. And I'm just disappointed. I mean, I sound pathetic.
I agree with you. Look at the other one. Look at what happened to motorbike chariot racing. That sounds a bit weird, but it started in Australia in the 1930s. And what they did, they had a chariot. Yeah. They'd have something like two motorbikes on sort of rods in front, so the motorbikes were like the horses, and they'd have a stadium, and the blokes would be dressed in Roman gear, and they'd go around the stadium, the crowds would cheer them, and instead of horses, they'd have motorbikes. So the good thing about it is no animals were harmed or anything like that, but it was so bloody dangerous that a lot of countries banned it and just fell out of favour. But I thought it was a fantastic idea to get these motorbikes shooting around the dirt like chariot racing. Yep. And, you'd have chariots falling over and motorbikes going here, there and everywhere.
Did you ever see that wall of death thing? Did you ever go to
Yes, I've seen one. I've actually seen one at
blew my mind when I was 8 years of age. Yeah.
Not when I went it. Yeah. That's right. And they had a wall of death, but apparently my father told me they used to have a lion that sat in a sidecar. The poor sod. This lion, that it's all his teeth removed. He was a geriatric lion. The poor sod was just sitting there, and they called it Gums because it just didn't have any teeth. And there's a bloke going around with
mad. That's completely mad.
But I mean that's what my dad saw. But when I saw it, that was in the 80s or 70s, I think it was. I wasn't that old. It was just a bit cool. It's just a bloke going around on the wall of death, and he looked at over the top, and he takes his hands off the handlebars and all this, and stands up on the seat or sideways on the seat because the motorbike's going sideways. But it's quite exciting. You have the noise of the motorbike and all the bloody smell of the fumes and everything. It's great.
Well, I've just posted something in the, if you get a chance, I randomly discovered this on YouTube. In America, they do truck drag racing where they have souped up lorries
Yeah.
hauling trailers worth of goods just along a short stretch of track. And I tell you what, it's the most entertaining thing you can see. It's brilliant.
Really?
Smoke and fumes and it's brilliant. I've dropped it in the chat. I've dropped in our chat and on the Rumble chat. But if you get 5 minutes, just have a sit and watch that. I'll tell you what, that
Really?
if they brought that across, I'd go and sit and watch that.
That's interesting. You're a Speedway guy. That's it. You're the Speedway crowd.
Yeah.
Listen,
There's a speedway at Hoddesdon near where I live. I don't know if it's still there, but they used to
I
have
can't defend
speedway.
this stuff. It's a bit sad. I do accept all that kind of stuff. It's probably because my dad bought me a Skelectric when I was 7, and I just really got into it. And I just thought it was cool. I've never driven one because, if you come from a working class family, there's no way that you're going to get the money to go and do that kind of stuff. And all that. And it is glammy
Yeah, but they've solved that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in, but
No.
they've solved that problem in America because I'm not sure whether it's Texas or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
But there's a place where they close off the roads every year, and these fellas make half-size replicas of 1930s and 1940s racing cars.
Right.
And they're powered by Toyota engines, something like 1200 or 1300 Toyota engines. No seat belts, no crash helmets, and then I'll go around the circuit. And there's, like the Isle of Man TT races, these things are going like bleating whoopee, and they've got great, and they're replicas of 1920s and 30s and 40s racing cars. And they're fantastic. Incredible. I'm not sure in America where they do it, but it's quite a thing, and it's quite a tourist pool apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's that element of this appeal of some kind of. I mean, look, I don't do this. I don't want. You don't want to see people get hurt or anything. I never watched it for that reason. But you knew that they knew that could happen, and yet they still did it. So there's a tip of the hat on that. And you go, well, they're just stupid. We could do something better. Yeah, I suppose you could really. But, there's quite a lot of time in life. And just having something silly every night, whatever you want to call it, to do, I just find it refreshing. I come, if it's a good thing. And I'm trying to create meaning to myself when I watch sport. I can't do it anymore. I'm just going, what is this? It's like when I was saying earlier about talking to this guy about football. I just haven't any idea. I've got no idea why you would watch it anymore, because again, it's another aspect of it. It's become culturally irrelevant. It's not based in that one's not based in local communities, which is where it used to be. I guess local football would be, and it's something about. It's not just the skill set of kicking a ball around or anything like that. It's about the interaction with the crowd and what it means, and you're together with your mates and you're letting off steam and all these sorts of things. They were part and parcel of the whoop and woof of life around here. And so if you look at all those things like engineering, coal mining, not that I'm arguing for it, it's a horrible job, right? But many of those things that form the character and physical resilience of our people and sort of mental courage, they're not there. It's just all, we'll play video games and turned into blob people, will you? Yeah, and now they've turned the actual sport, literally, and loads of guys like me who are seasoned watchers, way more knowledgeable about it than I am, they're saying the same thing. They said, this is like a video game. What's going on? And the drivers, including the lead driver, Max Verstappen, is going, basically, these cars are crap. You've changed the whole sport. I mean, it used to be about the driver, and there's a problem with it. The car manufacturers have been. Here's the chain as I see it. You've got the Club of Rome and all those other arseholes saying, we're going to make the environment the global challenge so that we can create all these regulatory bodies, and then we can dictate to nations that they've got to reduce now the carbon footprint, or the temperature's going up. No, it's going down. Or there's global warming, there's global cooling. All this kind of fear-mongering, again, that kind of stuff. And they've pushed it into the car. They've pushed it into the car arena, and the cars run on petrol. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, but you made it bad. We don't need to have cars running on petrol. Remember that one we were talking about a few weeks ago? You could have them running on compressed air. Imagine if you've got to go, well, just create a compressed air. Why do we even need bloody electric? And electric cars with those, I mean, it's just, you just give up with people. They can't think.
But what gets me, I look on a car as a tool.
Yeah.
And I think that if they have petrol and diesel's probably the most efficient vehicles for a fair long distance, But for very short journeys, just going down to the shops, yeah, a small electric car is fine because you don't have to have a very big battery. That's what electric cars are originally built for, short journeys. But talking about this new thing, did you know that, back to bikes again, did you know that the Duraley gears, they've now got electric gear changes on them?
Oh, yeah.
So you just press a button and it just electrically shifts over. I mean, what's wrong with a bleeding cable? You just go boing, boing.
They're pretty cool, though. Have you seen them work? I saw one just instant. I went, bloody hell, that's impressive. Yeah, they're going to keep mucking about with us. The thing about a bike, you can never, is that it's a bloke's lungs and guts that are pushing it along. You can never get away from that, which is, I mean, the other one I love is track cycling. I just think track cycling is amazing. I loved it as a kid. I never got out on a track, although we had a track down at Roundy Park in Leeds, a grass track, which was hard as hell to ride your bike. It was hard grass, right? I used to go and watch all the racing there. Just absolutely loved track cycling. Just thought it was amazing. Yeah, they're pretty brave as well. They get banged up pretty bad if you come off on those things. They're doing 40, 50 mile an hour on those things. You know, it's quite a thing. It's wonderful.
What about a velomobile? A velomobile, you can do about 50 to 60 on them.
Oh,
Seriously.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're
of
going to
course,
say...
the powers that be, of course, they'll introduce the electric vehicles because they make money off the lithium, presumably, the mining and all that sort of stuff. Whereas we could have, like you say, hydrogen power, which doesn't really involve anything in that respect. And
you're a troublemaker, Paul. You are a heretic.
I'll fly along.
Are you not subscribing to the carbon dioxide great global scam? Because I know you're not. I'm just being completely facetious and stupid. I mean, it's just this thing, going back to what you mentioned earlier on as well about Rockefeller and this whole thing, Eric, I think you mentioned something about him. This whole thing about calling it fossil fuels and not recognizing or leaking out that it's abiotic, that the earth naturally produces this stuff. And then choosing it as a fuel. Why? Because they can control the supply, because it's a big thing. I mean, it's shipped all over the place. It's the number one traded commodity in the world. The entire purchasing power of your dollars and euros are linked to fuel. Everything that you get has got to be transported to you, right? All countries are consuming it. They like it like that because they're the regulator at controlling the pump. Like fuel tax over here on whatever amount of petrol you pay, it's more than 50% of the price that you pay on the fuel is fuel tax.
That's right. And did you know the first internal combustion engines, which were diesel, were built to run on peanut oil, and you can run diesel on virtually anything. And this is what I think we must do when we talk about forming communities. I mean, stuff like the government they can go and stick out their backside, and that is farmers growing things that you can actually fuel diesel engines with, because we need our own fuel. So we won't worry, because it's surprising what you can, diesel engine, or literally an old-fashioned one, will run on any bleeding thing. Mm-hmm. But the trouble is the modern ones are a bit too finicky. That's the problem,
But of course the thing is as well, the big companies actually know that this is all a load of lies, because
I know.
One of our major freight operators, DB, who runs a lot of the freight across this country, have been scrapping electric locomotives and then replacing them with diesels. Makes sense. I'm sure if they really believed in it, they'd have resurrected the electric locos and put the diesels into store, but clearly not. They obviously know it's all lies. Yeah.
The transport thing is just part of this entire mess, isn't it? You see how it's controlled. Everybody needs locomotion. You've got to get from A to B, or at least we think we do. I came across a really interesting thing of interest to New Yorkers, I would have thought, who most of them will not know this. But in 1870, I've forgotten his name, John Beerley or something, an engineer in New York, smart guy, used to run New Scientist magazine or Scientific American. He was really great publishing guy. He built an underground railway in New York in 1870. How about that? What did it run on? Air. It ran on air. It was fantastic. This old video that I saw the other day. I don't know. I think I watch it. It's almost masochistic. I get so irritated when you see these examples of solutions that people came up with a long time ago, and every single one of these things gets binned or shelved because it interferes with the money mob. The money mob. So there was a guy, I've forgotten, there was a thing in New York about the corruption at Tammany Hall, if I've got it right, and I've forgotten the name of the guy. He was bent as a 9-bob note or as a $9 note or whatever you want to call it. And he'd invested in elevated railways. This guy came up with a new tunneling technique. It was really interesting. And what he did was he had a straight line of track to get people across a certain stretch of Broadway, because it used to take him ages to cross Broadway. The city was just heaving. There was, of course, horse manure and droppings everywhere, right? There's people working on buildings, not healthy at all. And he said, if we can get all these people off the streets and underground, I can move them around. So he had to lie to them about what he did. And he built this thing, and he had a massive fan at one end, and it was like a sealed tube made out of brickwork, and they put a carriage on it, and they just basically blew air into the tunnel, and it drove the carriage in extreme comfort, right? No noise or anything, just went whoosh, like that down the tunnel, and then they used to just reverse the fan and suck them back the other way. And he got plans. This is 1870. 1870, and the photographs just looked amazing, particularly the reception hall and everything. And there's stuff like that over here, and it's, because it's going to interfere with the money interests and their investment already in this crap. And of course, you had Elon Musk, didn't you, recently, talking about these big vacuum tubes to get people across the states at huge speeds through these vacuum sealed tubes. I'm on for stuff like that, but it's just,
well,
you can't.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, look at MDI. MDI is a French firm.
We're coming to the end of the hour, Eric.
2.0.
Eric, I've just got to sign off. Hang on to that idea. Got to sign off because we're just at the end of the hour. So we're saying goodbye to all the listeners on WBN. Apologies for the late start. We had a technical doodad of considerable proportions for the first 5 or 6 minutes, which kept us off air, courtesy of yours truly. We'll be back again same time next week, 4 p.m. Eastern for the next couple of weeks. That's next Thursday and the Thursday following. Then we catch you up again. We'll be back at 3 p.m. but 4 p.m. So we'll be back again, as I said, next Thursday with the next episode of Biking for Beginners and stuff like that. No, we'll talk about some other stuff as well. A little song to play you out with over these next 4 minutes. Bloodhound Rock. Why not? I'm going to play this. I played it maybe about a year back. We're going to play this. We'll be back with you on the other side of this. We'll see you all next week on WBN. We carry on over at paulenglishlive.com if you want to carry on listening. I hope you do. This is quite groovy, by the way, if you're into groovy, and I am. And that is Bloodhound Rock by J.D. McPherson. And I think that's kind of groove-tastic myself. Did you feel rather groovy about that, Eric?
I did feel very groovy on that, yes. Yeah. It almost made my wig fell off. I was so excited. So there we go.
Hey, you know what? I'm getting more and more follically challenged with every passing day. So I was thinking maybe I should get a toupee. What do you think?
Well, you might have to pay for it, yes. But my one's just come back from the dry cleaner, so I'm feeling quite buoyant today.
I think we should have a toupee party. Everybody should.
Yes, a very badly fitted one. I used to, when I worked in the city, and I hasten to add in architecture, not in banking. There was a bloke who obviously worked in a bank, and must have had a few bob. But his syrup of figs, his wig, was so bad you could see the joint round the back. I don't know what happened in a windy day, but I'm sure he'd accidentally just lift his wig up and say good morning and put his wig back on again. I've never seen a wig so bad. But they reckon that talking about Paul Daniels, he used to wear a wig, didn't he? Apparently Paul Daniels was a wig wearer, and so is Terry Wogan. Because they were both a bit bald.
No, the Wogan didn't, did he?
He did, yeah. Yeah. And Bruce Forsyth did as well. But my attitude is, I'm bald, there's not much I can do about it. It's in my genes, so I've changed from Wranglers to Levi's, but it still doesn't make any difference.
As my dad used to say, grass. When people say that, he said, grass don't grow on a busy street, which I quite liked. I thought it was a good riposte. Right. In other words, you're thick. If you've got hair, you're a thicko, and don't you forget it. Yeah. All that kind of stuff.
I started losing my hair though in my 20s, and my dad with him he lost his hair when he was in his 20s. So
it's all that bike riding blows it out. It's sort of going down those hills at 40 miles an hour, just blows it off your head.
It does. But,
it's
a shame because I used to have long hair. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk like that.
Oh, you did. You did say that. Yeah, you used to be a damn hippie, didn't you?
Hippie man,
bloody hippie. Those damn hippies.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything interesting in your world? Anything sort of? Have we got anything? There was. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. A little thing. Just wanted to talk a little bit about Food for Thought Radio. Just by way of an update, might lead into other things as well. So, lots of fun little developments this week. It's kind of taking up most of my day, which I'm glad of. Sort of organising show hosts. There's quite a few. It's getting quite interesting. I'm not saying this means that everybody here will like all the shows that are turning up, because they're of different hues and different characters. In fact, I can't remember ever tuning into a radio station and liking everything that everybody did. I mean, it just doesn't work like that, does it? So it's very much a sort of test project, really, the whole thing. But more than provisionally, the thing's due to sort of have a royal opening on April the 1st. I think I mentioned this last week, which is, of course, the first day of the new year, and indirectly means that we're all April Fools, which I quite like. I know we're not really, but you know what I mean. And so this week there was a show that was on Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. How about that? Really? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lady who's an ex-lawyer who runs a channel on YouTube called Callie, that's her name, Kali, Dark Matters. And she seems to be, I'm saying seems to be because I've only had a few conversations with her and set her up technically and all that kind of stuff. Very knowledgeable about words. She comes from a lawyer background. She's known about this stuff probably, I think she said from like the mid-90s. So I've got lots of further additional conversations I hope to have with her. She's very knowledgeable about a lot of stuff. Nice northern lass from, I think, Lancashire or somewhere like that. And just great energy, really good. So 8 o'clock, I said, really, 8 o'clock in the morning? She said, yeah. Anyway, there were a few F-bombs in it, not necessarily from her. She had a guest on and everything, a good guy called Dean, who I'm due to catch up with tomorrow. So we're going to try and smooth that off. I said, look, it's not that I'm a prude or anything, but I think breakfast time is not the time for that. Maybe you want to do it.
Yes.
It's just not. So if we have a watershed, I think it should be 9 or 10 o'clock. Seriously, it's something I'm going to try and discuss with Mark. I do sound like a sort of prissy controller. I don't mean to be, but I just think everybody's stuff goes further the less of that you do. Do you know what I mean? But that's just me. It's each their own. I don't mind. There's late night shows can be what they can be, and that's fine. And everybody know what they'll be tuning into. But it was good. It was really good, and it's only early days. I mean, basically, it was like making sure that the buttons worked, and they didn't get as cocked up as my show did tonight for the first 5 minutes. That was a bit weird, but
it happens.
Yeah, it was good. And then I was out last night with 8 or 9 people at the pub, as I do. It's usually Tuesdays, but it was Wednesday this week. Great pub, by the way. We went there about a year and a half ago. It's still under the same ownership, but the food has spectacularly improved by leaps and bounds. So
that's good. It's not microwave, Mark, is it?
No, it's good.
Food.
And the landlady, I didn't know she was the landlady, but towards the end of the evening, she came over for the bill and, all the sort of card payments and all that kind of stuff. And so I just had a conversation with her. I said, we came here about a year and a half ago. The food was okay. I said, I'm not moaning about it. I said, but it's way, way better. What's gone on? She said, well, we were the owners back then, but we were in a bit of a kerfuffle. She said, we took the pub on in 2020. I said, your timing was good then, thinking about the great lurgy of 2020 and all that kind of stuff. She said, yeah, there was nothing we could do about it. She said, so we were finding our way, for the first few years. But they had a cook had come in, or a chef had come in, a fully trained chef, and trained her husband. She said, my husband's doing all the cooking. I said, well, let him know it's great. It was fantastic. It was really, really good. You remember Yeah, it was really good. I only ate the main meal. This is all about food now, everybody. But when you have Christmas lunch and you can't get off the chair because you feel you've got a brick in. It was like that. I had to get up and go walking. There was that much on the plate, and it was wonderful. These roast carrots. So I just wanted them to know. She was great. She said, "Yeah, we've sort of turned a corner with all sorts of things." It was packed. It wasn't packed when we went there 18 months ago. I love seeing all that stuff. These people put their heart and soul into these things, and it's great to get out. I only get out once a fortnight. How sad am I? I ought to get out a bit more, but. Just a quick share. It was good. And all of these sorts of things are kind of this connection point of hopefully pulling the peasant network together. That's the way I always view these things. I'm probably deluded. I accept that. But even so, there's so many good people around, and it's worthwhile, if you're out there and you're getting a bit cheesed off, just go find a good person and be reminded that we've got loads of them around here, and we just need a little bit more of a sort of team spirit amongst us. That's not the right phrase, but you get the idea. So I'm always putting out to people to just be bright and breezy. I just think it's like a job, and you need to do it. I'm not being insincere. I'm not sort of faking it. She was great. She was really good. And she just, obviously wanted to tell me all about how they'd turned it around. So I listened. It was great. What a nice story to hear. God, it's fantastic. So it's packed. She said, yeah, it's really, we're getting very, very busy. And I thought, cool. That's what you want, isn't it? You want to see people thriving because it's a bloody hard job. They say if you can run a restaurant, there's no business you can't run because you've got everything. You've got timing, logistics, the food's going to go off, you've got to do it, how much have you served, how much are we throwing away, crap, that's money down the drain, all that stuff. The staff, you've got to have them out in the front of the house. They were great. The staff were really good. So they've had some kind of an internal revitalizing process, and it was noticeable, and it's a lovely thing to notice.
It's management. If people are happy in what they're doing and they take a pride in what they're doing. I mean, I go along to a cafe sometimes in the local town, and the bloke there really takes a pride, and it's. I mean, I had fish and chips and a cup of coffee and that. You got change out of £10, and it's really your plate is pull up. And I said, that's the best fish and chips I've had for ages. And he felt really overjoyed. They really take a pride in what they do. And this is the sort of places that I like to go to. And they're family run. I think this is what we need to promote, family run businesses. And I was actually thinking of doing, we could do this, a food for thought one. They have the Michelin star. Well, I thought the Fockham star. But seriously, if you go to a very good, like that place, we give them, we say, well, never give bad reviews. If somewhere's crap, we don't review it. But somewhere's good, you can just give them a good review. We could do it food for thought review. That's what I was wondering about.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. The whole food for thought network needs to build up. There's just so much to do. When you stop and think about it, you think, yeah, there's loads to do, but it's all pretty cool stuff because it's about pulling people together and making things work that bit better. And, even if you're not really convinced by this, if you're listening and hearing this thinking, yeah, but we're facing such tremendous odds, this may be true, but we've still got to eat and get on and do stuff. And I think, my goal is that I need to get to like 50, 60% of my energy needs to be in that direction, and 30, 40, 50% needs to be spent looking at this stuff. I mean, all we're looking at really with the news is the latest iteration of the ancient scam, aren't we? That's all.
Yes.
Well, we're going, well, it now looks like this. Now it's got AI in it. Oh, now it's got this environmental crap in it. This is their latest sort of hoodwinking technique. This is what they're going to do now. Oh, now the spacemen are coming. Oh, they're not. They're going. Now we're all going to do this. It's just, it gets exhausting because you realise that you're just dealing with a bunch of muppets, really.
Again, we need to ignore them out of existence.
I think so.
And that's the thing, where we can go and go to a farm and get our diesel.
Mm-hmm.
And have our own people that if we get irritated by the government thugs, we just politely tell them to go away. And this is the thing, we need to take control of our lives and not have these idiots who, let's face it, this idea of democracy is nonsense. It really is. It always has been.
This is what it's got us. This is where it's got us.
Yeah.
It is. And I think the only way, or the best way, that the bulk of everybody's life really needs to be on improving their local space with their neighbours and their immediate sort of street and village. Yeah. This is the thing, to really connect up with those people and discover I've got some lovely people living next to me, but I wouldn't know if I hadn't gone up to them and said, hello, I live here. Where are you? Oh, how long have you? That kind of stuff. General chit chat, that kind of stuff. We're looking for we're looking for connection. And the other day, Eric, I saw a tremendous video on birth certificates. Right, really good. There's a channel I've been looking at called Tartaria Effect or something like that. I'll dig it up for next week, everybody. I don't have it in front of me. It's AI voiceovers, but it's pretty good one. I mean, your ears will detect these things straight off because they're 2-word perfect half the time. I think this one has started to put in little breathing sounds, but I can still tell. However, the content's fantastic. And the pitch of this one, which was about 18 minutes long, and I think that's a pretty good length, actually. You can't half cover a lot in 18 minutes. And what the theme was, how did people live? How were things organised before birth certificates? So, I've mentioned here before that back in 1859, when the British Empire was at the height of its size, scale, power, or whatever, certainly in terms of land under supposed control, the civil service was 16,000 people, and nobody in that entire place had a birth certificate. They didn't have them.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and it turns out, and I know Richard Vobes did a thing on this a few weeks ago. I didn't catch it, but I got the title.
It was 1837, I think they came in, birth certificates.
Well, this was saying a little bit later than that. It was looking at the States, actually, even though it's an English guy or an English voiceover that's putting it together, but it was looking at the situation in the States. And so these things were introduced everywhere within about 3 to 5 years. All governments introduced them worldwide, across Europe, or, what we would call the Western democracies, right? They all came in at the same time. The whole birth certificate thing. And when we're talking about getting local stuff, there's a kind of to-do list, isn't there?
Yes.
I haven't written it down, but there is a to-do list in terms of unpicking the whole thing and getting back to some semblance of decent living. I think there's lots of psychological challenges that we face in this as well, because whether we are aware of it or not, and most of us, including myself, are not aware of this, we've become institutionalized, whether you like that phrase, and we have, because the government is literally wound around our entrails almost in so many areas of your life. And so if you go to someone and say, look, we're going to go cold turkey, which you can't do, we're going to go cold turkey on the government, most people would not A, go for it, or be able to deal with it, including me. You couldn't do it if you think about it. Everything is all these subtle little control things, the envelopes that come through, the bills, all of this kind of stuff, the voting, the local. It's actually wrapped around us in such a way. And it didn't used to be like that in the mid 1800s. It just did not. People operated naturally on a local level, I guess because of transportation limitations. The bulk of your life would be spent in your local area. You became a seasoned individual where you lived. And a very small percentage of people could afford to get on liners and boats and go to America and do that stuff. And they were always pretty wealthy, right? It wasn't for guys working down a pit or in a steel mill or anything like that. It just didn't happen. But not in any sort of an order is this birth certificate thing has got to be dealt with. I'm actually going on a training that's starting, I think, next week about this with a solicitor that I know is on our side, right? He's a guy that understands all these processes. And I'm really looking forward to this because I've got my study head on and I want to get some practical things sorted out. So we've got this birth certificate thing. We can look at the taxation thing, our obligations, and particularly, I guess, what you would say is our standing in their club. You know, the one that you were automatically enrolled in when you arrived as a baby and that you and your parents knew nothing about. This deception right at the start of your life. And of course, we've all lived our lives to the best of our ability under this system. And now, courtesy of the last 10, 20, 25 years, living in internet world, many of us now see that this whole thing is not really that good, actually. And as you said repeatedly, and as to give him his credit, as what's his name is saying, the head of Restore, the government is our enemy. Literally,
they are our enemy.
Literally,
we as I say, we don't need them, and I think that what we can do for Food for Thought Radio is be like citizen journalists. Now, I want to report on the way the local council has destroyed local businesses by not only imposing car park charges, but allowing the big boys to open up at either end of high streets and draw all the crowds away from the high street and away from the small businesses and into the supermarkets. Now, to me, I can't say that there's some backhanders going on, but it damn well looks like it. You know, it just looks a bit weird to me. And
well, it's kind of, I mean, that's the history of us as a people, isn't it? I mean, what was it? What was that figure that I put out the other week? 9.5 million people are financially supported by the government in one way or another. And I guess that must include pensions and state pensions and all that kind of stuff, right? But there's only 7.5 million people working. Will there be 7.5 million people working in 5 years' time? With AI, it would seem highly unlikely, don't you think?
Well, that's right. They're fiddling the unemployment figures because I think I can't. This is off the top of my head. I think when the miners' strike was on, it's something like 3 million. It's now 9 million, and they're hiding it with people going on courses and things like that. But what actual work is there around when you look at it now? The only places people can get work is flipping burgers in burger bars and delivering parcels on the road, and that's it, really, isn't it? I mean, the engineering works and things like that don't exist anymore. And no. I mean, when I have my car MOT, they sell motorbikes there, and I saw some motorbikes. They're battery ones, and they're British built. And I said, "Oh, that's good." He said, "Yeah." He said, "But all the parts are from China, so they import the parts and just put the motorbikes together in this country, so they could call them British built." But he said they're not, because the components are all made in China.
Yep.
Now, how can that be right? They should be made in this country. Transport them halfway around the world, you know.
Yep. I reckon the challenges to our thinking are going to be considerable in ways that we can't fully perceive. I've just got a sort of sense of the whole thing. You know, so if we've got some idea of how we would like to live, I think we do. It's not, of course, it's not all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. I've got that. We're looking at the removal of these things that we naturally do not like being bossed around from cradle to grave by basically, you know, people that are not good people because they want to do that. They don't want to actually add value. They just want to boss other people around or stay in charge no matter what. But just like drug addicts, in a way, we are kind of drug addicts. It's not literally a sort of chemical drug, but we're sort of addicted in a way to, whether you know it or not, it's undetected, to the whoop and whoop, the way of life has been managed for us, you know. And there's a great Bennett, you go, oh, it's great. I'd have to worry about that. You know, the government are going to handle that. Of course, you look at how they handle things, you go, oh, I think I probably do need to worry about this. This is not good. But you don't take a drug addict from drug addiction to nothing overnight. It can kill them, can't it? And it's so desperately unpleasant for them, no matter what you might think about their lack of decision making in getting into that condition in the first place. And there are all sorts of reasons. It's ridiculous for me to I'm not trying to judge it. I'm just saying, you know, everybody's got their own backstory. Some are tragic and awful. Others are just foolish and so on and so forth. You could say that about all of us, I guess, in some regards. But so it's the transition process. It's this transition process that's the great challenge, really, about what is it that we're looking to move back to? What is it that we want to restore? And when I use the word we, does that include the bulk of the people in these islands? At the moment, it would seem not to. And yet, I tend to operate on the basis that decent flame in everybody does want to go in that direction, or huge numbers do. They're just understandably slightly reticent about expressing that in public. You know what I mean?
The big problem is this word job. They've got job centres. It should be career. I mean, when I was at school, it was careers advice, something that you're adapted to. I mean, it's like when my father was in hospital, there was a nurse there. I got talking to her. And she was one of, you know, what they call them. They're the ones that clear all the muck up. They're not really qualified as nurses. They're just, you know, if someone's pooed themselves, they'll clear it all up.
Hello, Patrick. Sort of Good evening. How are things in Wisconsin?
Not too bad. I don't want to interrupt, but yeah.
That's all right.
Very, very quickly, this woman, she was a graphic artist, and she couldn't get work in what she trained for. And the job centre had this job, and she had a phobia about hospitals. She hated the job. She wasn't cut out for it, and she said she dreaded going to work, and she was taking she was on antidepressant tablets because she was doing a job that she hated. But she said if they wouldn't, she said I had to take the job because if I hadn't taken it, they'd have cut all my benefit in that. So she said I had to take it, and she said I absolutely dread coming to work every morning. She just detested every part of it. She said I just feel like a slave here, clearing out muck and filth. She said I'm just not cut out for it. You know, but I had to take it. And this is what we're getting. And this is hopefully what AI can relieve. And I think we're going to have to, as I say, work in communities, because there's lots of work for us to do. For example, growing our own food, creating diesel for our engines, education, having people to teach our children, proper people, and just literally starting a civilization from the absolute disgrace that governments have created for us. And that's what and I mean, I think that if people we went back to, say, prior to the Industrial Revolution, yes, you know, they'll have robots building stuff for us, but I think people will be a lot happier. So, you know, you want to buy a pair of shoes that you, having stuff that you can repair yourself, cars that you can repair, shoes that you can repair. So, you know, your shoes wear out, you go over to the cobbler and he repairs them for you. And who loves doing the job. That's what we need. That's what we need to bring back.
Well, I mean, all of those things kind of exist, but obviously at a scale that's quite small. We've got local cobblers and things, and not that I need anything cobbling at the moment. I mean, shoes are often, you know, unless you buy really good leather shoes, you don't really need too much cobbling, do you? They're relatively inexpensive. You wear them out and throw them away. That kind of stuff. That's how it goes these days. I understand all that. But I think it's this transition period is going to be a challenge. I mean, I'm just guessing here, and I'm probably going to say things that are inaccurate, but, you know, we're in a population that for a long time, life has been made physically easier for us. Whether we like that or it just has. I look around and I see it. And so we are getting softer in so many ways, like the physical resilience that we were talking about earlier has been reduced. I'm not saying that there aren't pockets of people that are still that way. There are. But across the great mass of people, it's not been like that. You know, the office job has become the de facto job, paper shuffling, really, for a lot of things. And now AI is going to get rid of that. I mean, we're hearing from someone the other day, or was it on last week's show, some legal practice where they had 15 women working there. They've replaced them all with AI. 15, right? Now, apart from the fact that I always think that a woman's place is in the home. Don't shoot me down. I mean it in a good way, right? I'm not against women working. It doesn't matter what I'm for or against. Anyway, this is the way it is. But all of these sort of traditional structures that held us together, family life and the whole rhythm of that, has changed massively, since I was a kid, really. And I think for you too, Eric. I mean, I was brought up, I suppose, in the last sort of breath of the traditional family life, and it started to change in the 70s and the 80s because people started to travel further to get jobs than they would move away from their parents to get them, and so the family became a more strung out, sort of fractured thing. I didn't grow up like that until I was about, that started happening to me was about 18 or 19 in the late 70s, early 80s. You had more options to go places and go work in an office in London as opposed to work in an office in Leeds or something like that. But and so you took it because it seemed quite exciting at the time. It did, it just did.
But what about a typing pool? I mean, we used to have a typing pool. So you go in an office and you go in there and the noise, bang, 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 clink, boom, 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 boom. That was before computers. So if you wanted a letter typed, you go up to the secretary and she'd type the letter and you get this clink, 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 clink noise all the time. They were electric typewriters, but still made a bleeding great racket. That's all gone. There's no drawing boards actually in architects' offices anymore. It's all CAD, CAD, computer-aided design.
Yep.
And if you send a letter, they might have one secretary to type the letter out on a computer, but the people do it themselves now.
Yep.
They'll type the letter out on the computer because it's quicker. So that has all gone. Memos, you don't have memos anymore. It's all email and that type of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, all those jobs have gone.
Yeah, I suppose we can't help but see it from the position that we're in now. But if you look back at all generations, they've all faced challenges as things have changed, and they've changed a lot, particularly since the Industrial Revolution. They've continued to change. The provision of telephones in houses, which must sound comical to people, but as I said, we didn't have one till I was about 14. I didn't. You don't miss what you don't have.
Did you?
What about party line? Do you have a party line?
Yeah, that's what I was
line.
going to ask. You had a party line. How long did that last?
I can't remember.
It died out in the early 70s. But what we had, you're going to laugh at this. The people we had a party line with, I don't know. Did you have them in the States, Patrick?
Party lines? Yeah, they had them here.
And what happened? They had their phone in the bedroom, and when they made their bed, they always knocking the phone off the hook. They're always doing it. And once my dad picked up the phone and he put it down. No, it wasn't, but I think later on he goes, oh, the couple were having sex. And he just hear this sort of moaning and groaning over the phone. And I had to keep going around, knocking on their door and saying, "Excuse me, do you think you could put the phone back
on the ring?"
Oh yeah, and then you'd be talking on the phone, and suddenly you hear the click, and the woman would pick up and says, "Oh, there's someone on the phone." She'd deafen you. "Oh yeah, well put it down, Bert." "Yeah, all right, then I'll put it down." "Right, but sorry," bang. And that's what you get. Who would have ever thought then that we'd have our own mobile phones? There's no phone boxes now. When's the last time you saw a phone box? I haven't seen one for ages.
They're pretty good. They do exist. They're pretty good for making mobile phone calls in. Seriously, you go in there with your mobile phone and you get all this quiet. Unless, of course, you have to cope then usually with the smell of the urine, the most popular liquid in the world.
Yeah.
Back in the 1800s, let's say, they used to have all sorts of strings set up in the house with bells attached for the servants to know to come and take care of the person. So they did have that kind of a thing going on.
What about a who's at? Do you know what
that?
who's at?
No,
a who's at? A who's at was tubes that ran through the house. So you'd pick one of the tubes up and blow down it, and or make a noise and say, room number 2, I need my breakfast or something like that. And they called them who's ats, and they had them in tailors in the East End, And what would happen is if someone came for a shirt, they'd use the Who's At to call where the shirts are being made, whether the shirt's ready or not, and things like that. And that's what a Who's At was. And you could actually talk down a tube.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. I used to love those compressed air tube things they had in department stores for bills. They were cool.
Yes.
That was worth buying stuff for, just to hear that thing go
They
clunk,
still had them up to about 10 years ago in Tesco's.
Well, you know the guy I was
Seriously.
mentioning earlier in New York that built their first underground railway powered by air, right? 400,000 people went on it, by the way. And the people in New York loved it. This'll be a story that you see, it's almost as if American history is even worse than British in terms of the amount of things. It happened so quick. They covered things up so fast. There's like tons of really amazing hidden tales that need to come out. But he got it built because he had to lie to I can't remember the name of this spiv mayor. He died in Spain. They ran him out of town or something. He was the most corrupt guy that had ever had in New York. Tammany Hall or something. It was just riddled with back. Yeah, that's it.
Tammany Hall is the old Indian Tammany, and they had the hall was like the city hall. And it's like you don't mess with Tammany Hall.
That's right. I've heard that all the time.
All the good old boys.
Yeah, boss somebody or other. He was just bent as it was ridiculous. The amount of backhanders he was getting, so he got involved in this elevated railway thing. But the guy that built it, he lied to them because he knew they weren't going to approve it. It'd been in for 5 years. They finally granted him approval. But he said he wanted to build a compressed air messaging service and had to dig some tunnels. So they gave him permission. But as soon as he got in there with his lads with the spades, right, he built this railway tunnel instead, right underneath them, literally on the other side of the street. It's absolutely fantastic. And then they opened it up, and everybody that came off said, this is just brilliant. 1873, it got built. He had guys go in at 6 o'clock at night during the winter when it was dark, and they just went like hammer and tongs and dug this tunnel. He designed a tunneling shield, the world's first tunneling shield. You see these big things that they do now. And the museum's lost that. They've lost it. You see, what's the point of crying over spilt milk? But there's a lot of spilt milk, and there's a lot of tears to be had.
Yes, they had one at Crystal Palace. They had an air pressure railway, and you can still see the remnants of it there now, apparently. And that was at the Crystal Palace.
Is that the name of a football team over there?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah, as well. But there was an actual crystal, a place made of glass. That was for the Great Exhibition of 18 something or other.
Yeah,
was it
amazing. You should see what was in it. It came up on the TV the other day, and one of my sons, actually they were both there, and it came up and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's Crystal Palace." He said, "What? That was actually built?" I said, "Yeah." You see, it's not that I was cross with him for not knowing. There's a lot of stuff that you sort of pick up along the way, but it's just coming back to this sort of psychological. There's a challenge that's before everyone, I think, including me, all of us, is that we've grown up in a system that's a sort of top-down authority instruction control system because it's been built that way. And then they've put all these sort of safety guards in it, like you'll get the dole or you'll get this and you get that, and that'll help you. This whole structure of things that relieves the stress of paying the bills. That's the number one stress for everybody in life, right, is the bill. Really, it's right up there. It's top 5, isn't it? It's a big pressure. I've got to pay the rent. I've got to pay the mortgage. We're not going to have a roof over our head. This is serious. You're hitting people right at the heart of how they want to live. By design, of course. It keeps people permanently off balance. To get a seasoned population, which we are in this way of life, like over 100 years and probably longer still, to start thinking independently is going to be difficult. I think I'd love to. I want to be wrong about this. But what you would call, say, the entrepreneur spirit, the idea of sitting down in your shed and going, I could do this thing, and to actually have a realistic chance of doing it, because there's never been a realistic chance of achieving these things. Most people, that part of their brain has never fully blossomed. People have become workers. They might be paid a ton of stuff, but they're still reliant on a man or a woman further up the chain to send them their salary at the end of the month, this kind of stuff. The idea of this sort of rhythm of life disappearing and being replaced by something else is going to be intimidating. Simply because we've got habits that we do. It's a bit like saying, "Oh, you're not going to have breakfast anymore." No, oh, you don't need it. It's bad for you. We're going to do this. I mean, how do you get to change? It's these habits that we've developed, and I'm just thinking
that's right.
That's what I think is going to be a big sort of hidden challenge with all of this sort of stuff.
I think people like, you see, the thing that's got me is, I mean, I found out about this keto diet from the internet. I've looked it all up. Now, if it wasn't for the internet, I'd have either had to read it in a book, or speak to someone, there's no doctors around that would know anything about it. And this is the thing. And really, if you've got an ailment or something like that, you look it up on the internet now. You don't bother with a Rockefeller quack. You that's what I already call them. Well, but I think that what they're the jobs that will carry on are people like Miles, who is his profession. He knows what he's talking about inside out, and people like to speak one-to-one. It's that human contact. People go in there with their ailments and that, and he can cure them. And I think healers will be in great demand, because I don't think you can get a robotic healer.
Well,
it has to be human.
I think any sort of area where a human being provides direct service to another human being, those things are part of the joy of life. They also give you something to complain about if they do a bad job, right? But it's where you interact and you learn human skills, and you're not thinking of it in that way. You're just living and doing things, right? I mean, what we're saying here, well, we're not saying it. I think it's obvious. The AI thing is basically in the process of removing the bureaucratic middle ground. All those middle managers that basically have been involved in an evolved form of paper shuffling, which is really what it's all been about. And many are in jobs that I would say ultimately are bogus. If you say, well, we want to create a civilizational operation that's much more efficient, you wouldn't have it structured like this, would you? It's to absorb people and to keep them under control and dependent on something. And so it's not freedom, it's the challenge of independence that's quite a biggie. If you've lived 40 years of your life in I'm an employee thing. Now, I've never lived like that. I hated it when I was an employee. I've only ever been an employee for 7 years in my entire life, and I hated every day of it. Not literally. I had a lot of fun in some of the companies, but it was there was something that niggled me all the time. I thought, how am I ever how can I get in charge of something?
You feel like a slave. The fact is, you're a slave, and even when I became freelance, I still feel like a slave. That is the problem, and I just don't like being. I'm unemployable. That's the trouble. I think
me too, mate. Me too.
History,
I'm absolutely unemployable. Yeah.
As history's gone on, hasn't it been that we've kind of fallen into corporations taking over where families used to exist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had family operations. You had people within the family. You had servants within the family, and then it went to corporations after the revolutions. Like in America, it fell into this. Everybody's equal. So we've got to create some sort of system that's merit-based, and then it becomes a corporation. And then you don't have that family structure that was traditional and God-centered, and instead it's all about like who's going to perform the most. Who's gonna bring in the most bacon, and it doesn't. You don't end up taking care of the lesser people, and treating everybody equally, because you all have a role, and you're going to inherit what you're given. So there's an incentive to doing inventive work, creating new things, but then it becomes a corporate thing, and it's like, well, it goes to the corporation, and then it gets all equally divided, and then there's no real motive for the future for the person doing the work to invent something, because it's just like, oh, well, my idea gets stolen and doesn't carry on because they're, So I think that the corporation is a real problem, and
it is.
I've been reading all about this recently, this idea of primogeniture. It's a huge thing. It's based in chapter 21 of Deuteronomy.
Right.
And it's verses 15 through 17. And people should read that because it's very interesting. And you did away with it in your country in like 1926. We did away with it in 1776. Russia, 1917. I'm reading about this, and it's like, yeah, that's about the time things turned for our countries.
It's these sort of networked cultures that were natural have been replaced by the corporate bogus top-down control system. The whole pyramid thing has been amplified, and unfortunately much of the technology that we've created has been used to emphasize that and to make it even, and to remove that sort of warmth from life that I think hopefully everybody's experienced periods like that, maybe when they were children or whatever, when they were, a connection with their parents or with their aunties and uncles, that kind of thing. I had a lot of that. I mean, you just take it for granted when you were young, but now that it appears to me to be absent in a big way, and because you've got all the knock-on effects, like people can't afford to get married and all this kind of stuff, and all this emphasis on economic performance. What's the point? I mean, even if we perform economically brilliantly, you're not going to get the amount that you need to disconnect from that system by design. They don't want that. It's an attitude that's adversarial to good quality living. I think, going back to this, the birth certificate thing is key. The fact that we are effectively used as a lump of meat as part of their accounting system, which is true. And the whole process of how we unpick this. I mean, there's so many complexities, and I guess one approach, and many people are taking it, is to unpick those complexities, and maybe that'll turn out to be worthwhile. I don't feel particularly drawn to it because I resent the idea that I'm supposed to do all this work to remove a thing I didn't even want in the first place. It's, I think I was saying it earlier today when I was on with Roger. I'm a Gordian knot guy. You see this big complicated thing? Yeah. What are we going to do about it? I think we should unpick it. No, I've got a sword here, right? The problem we've got is a lot of people can't even see that there's a Gordian knot. They don't even know where it is. And it is difficult to detect, because it's everywhere. It's all around us. It's all been built up over the last 150 years, particularly, tons of stuff. So we've got this birth certificate thing's got to be dealt with, and I'm hoping to learn a bit about a process. It's like, what steps do I take to do it? The challenge is this dependence that we have on the state. We've all got it to some degree, and if you haven't got it directly, you're surrounded by people that have got that, and you're living with them, and so it's like withdrawing from a drug. And it's not going to go down so well. You go, well, I've got to change all this stuff. Yeah, if you want to begin a path of independently thinking for yourself. And that's something that, as I said, I don't think many people have done much of. I could be wrong. Maybe everybody's doing. It's understandable that we mither and whinge and whine about it. I mean, if that's all you can do that. It's better than staying silent. But we need constructive things to do, and it's sort of recreating a space in which that can happen. I think we can do it. And anyway, even if we can't do it, it's still worth having a go, because I personally don't know what else I should spend my time on. The whole thing as well, just coming back to this farming thing and the food and all that stuff. We had the effing farmer on, didn't we, last week? And I know it was quite a sort of a detailed sort of show, and we were really sort of focusing on serious topics. But there's so much in this, the idea of me being able to buy from him, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm geared up to do it, a steak, and it getting delivered to me, and me paying him from the bank of Paul to the bank of the effing farmer. There's so many sort of ideas that need to be got across so that people can see it and do it and feel it and grok it, internally get it and go, good grief, I did a thing completely at my own beck and call, as it were. I did this transaction, and the only people that know about it are me and the guy that sold me the meat or the carrots or whatever it was. And so then it's about upscaling it. The more and more of that takes place, and then, of course, they'll come and attack you. So we've got to get rid of this birth certificate thing, because they're basically saying, we own you, in simple language. We own you, you see. Well, you signed a contract, and you're our stuff.
Paul, about this whole thing about the primogeniture was the inheritance tax that the farmers are under. That's what spurred me on to look into it more, because I'd heard about the primogeniture before that, but it didn't really connect with it until I started digging into it, because it's like that's a huge problem. If you're a farmer, if you farm and you can't pass on your farm to your son, and that's the end of the family line, that's the end of the farm. That's the end of feeding the neighborhood and everybody attached to that family that farms. And these family farms are the root of your culture and in sustaining it. Because if you don't have that, if you don't have land, you don't have anything. You're at the whim of anybody that comes along and has money, and you're their servant then. I mean, I guess, it's better than nothing, but it's not going to be anything that you can thrive at.
No.
Have you ever heard of primogeniture before?
Not until you started bringing it up. I think I'd heard about it years ago, but I've not looked into it as you've looked into it recently, Patrick. No, I haven't.
Yeah. So what happens now? This was the revolutionary thing that Thomas Jefferson came up with in our country, because he's the one that abolished primogeniture. What he said was, primogeniture before that was if father died, then the firstborn son, his firstborn son of his wife, would then get a double share of the inheritance, and the rest of the inheritance would go to the rest of the kin, female or male.
Right.
And that gave you an incentive to keep the family. For one, protected the family from creditors coming in and taking the land from the people, saying, "Oh, your father had a debt, and here, he was in hospice, so he had a bill, so that land then goes to the bill instead of to the son," which before that you were protected by it. What Jefferson did was say, well, since the firstborn son doesn't eat twice as much as any of the other children, it should be up to the father to assign in his will whoever he wants to give it to. So if he wants to play favorites, say he's a philanderer and his firstborn son is a wife that he hates, and this is in Deuteronomy, if you hate your wife, the wife of your firstborn son, it doesn't matter. It still goes to your firstborn son rather than to the son of the one that you love. So it settled that. It made things equal. It made it so that you have somebody who's carrying on that memory too, because the firstborn is the one who knows the father best because he's been alive longer than any of the other children. Yeah. And there's a whole process besides that, but the revolutionary thing that Thomas Jefferson came up with was to get rid of that and to say, well, if someone, basically what the law is, you create a will, and then whatever you say goes. Like whoever you want your finances to go to, your land, your property, you can assign it. But the way it was under primogeniture was you couldn't do that. And if someone died without a will, it would go to the firstborn son. It was just assumed that it would go to that, and then be divided amongst the family.
Yeah, there are so many kerfuffles in that area. Like in marriage, marriages aren't worth anything in the eyes of the law now. They're just not. They're always, as far as I'm concerned, my marriage carries more weight than the whole of the British government. You're not involved, but you find out that they've wriggled their way in. You get a marriage certificate. What's that? I say, we own your marriage now. You never told me that. Well, it was your job to find out. This sort of adversarial relationship with government reveals what it is, that it's a very sophisticated parasite, which is obviously what it is. And it works for an even more sophisticated parasite, of course. So we've got a whole series of steps to identify and to begin a process of weaning ourselves off. It's going to have to be a process. And I think, obviously, a key part of that is a massive communications challenge. It's enormous. It's not, I think, that the truth or even procedures will not be known. I'm sure people do. I get loads of stuff about sovereign individuals and all this, that, and the other. And in a way, I'm glad that I do. But I don't get anything that really hits me between the eyes, in the sense that I think when you see a thing like that, I want to know, this is just me, that others could get it quickly as well. It's about working together as a tribe. It's very important. My survival is actually completely dependent on the health of my tribe, and every other member of the tribe, it's same for them, whether they admit it or not. It just is. There's so much in your life that is contributed to you by being in whatever tribe you're in. Those the cards you got dealt when you arrived here. That's how it's worked out, and you can make it work, but you can't make it work if you're being preyed upon by a deceptive government structure, to give it another name, that has done all these things, you know, always for our benefit. Oh, we're going to help you. Yeah, but I didn't invite you to do that. And what's wrong with the old laws? We managed to get on for 2,500, 3,000 years fine until you started to introduce all this stuff. And it's always about economic efficiency and progress, things that don't happen. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. What's progress? You go, well, you've got a new electric car, yeah, but you've got a dysfunctional family and you're miserable as hell. What's progress? Right. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's mad.
The basic unit of the tribe is
absolutely.
The family.
You'll have a miserable heart, but you'll have a really new modern fridge. Okay, I'll go for a happy heart and no fridge. Thank you very much. Seriously, I mean that's what everybody's feeling and seeing missing, isn't it? And you've got so many demoralized people who, understandably, in a way, can't detect exactly what it is. I can't fully detect it either. No one can. That's why I guess, you know, shows like this exist, where we're seeking to explore through conversation to try and identify more clearly exactly what it is that's menacing us and what we do about it. So obviously the overthrow of the birth certificate is one. I mean, I just love the old way. You know, you have a Bible, you record your births, deaths and marriages in that. The idea of inheritance needs to be sorted out and made crystal clear in line with the law.
Paul, I'm telling you, this inheritance thing is almost the most important thing.
You think so at the moment? I can't agree with you because I'm not fully informed, but I accept what you say it now. Yeah,
I really do, because it's what glues the family together. You know, financially, with property, everything. If you don't have the ability to hand on what you've built to your son and to your daughters, your sons and daughters, to the next generation, the whole culture is gonna fall apart like it is. Like we have it, where we're all, you know, looking down at our phones, walking in different directions.
Yep,
it's something that will keep the family together as well, because there's a meaning behind it. There's the love of the family, for one, that binds everybody together, and the future. There's a hope for the future, even though we have spiritual, we're souls. We have rational souls and we'll live forever. But at the same time, the way things are right now, it's nasty. If we don't have this hope for the future with the young people and these farmers, you hear about it. I'm using them as an example because they inspired me to look into this, because it's like I want to figure out why there's not progress in that field, because it's like the fathers don't care. Once the father dies, the family dies, and then everybody's off in their own directions chasing the money. And it's like,
this is true. There are more hellish sort of disputes over the reading of a will. I mean, Dickens' novels are sort of almost based on, to some degree. I'm thinking of Bleak House and the case of Jarndyce and Jarndyce, which has been rolling on for 27 years. The way he describes it at the beginning of the book, it's amazing. He's talking about lawyers and barristers that have made a complete living off of that case, came into it, have gone out of it and have retired, and it's still going on because there's no clarity about how it should function. And it's interesting you saying that, because obviously it's an overthrow of the law, of scriptural law,
God's law.
Yeah,
that's
the law
right. Biblical,
of here's how it works. These are the structures that you live by. Things will work for you if you break them. And so some smart ass comes up, and now, of course, you're right about that thing, because I'm looking into a trust in terms of the property that I think I own. Then you're looking at all this. Well, you don't really, because the Crown owns the land and all that kind of stuff, and they can do what they like. All of these sorts of,
just it.
You know,
the Crown has primogeniture, but you don't.
Mm-hmm.
They follow these laws, these biblical laws.
Yeah,
and this is like seen as sacred.
Yeah,
but to you, for the common pleb, it's not. For them, it's this is like the scriptural book that they're following, and people think it's great, but it's like, why don't all of the people have it? Why is it just one family that gets all the attention and not the families of your lands?
Yeah,
that you occupy and you've lived in for generations and generations.
Well, it's a serious thing. I think there's something like 1,000 farms going bust every 3 to 6 months or something, or being closed down because they can't make a go of it. And this is a serious thing. I mean, every single aspect of the way that we live is basically buggered. by design. It is. It's buggered up. We're coming towards the end of the show. Eric, any last few words? The music's going to start in about 25 seconds or something like that.
Well, thank you everybody for listening in. It's been a fantastic show. And if you want to know about repairing your bicycle,
Bicycle Repairman.
Yes, it's Bicycle Repairman here at your service. So if you've got anything embarrassing that's happened to your cycle, please come to me and I'm all ears.
We have shops here. They're called Eric the Bike Man shops.
Really?
Yes.
You've been out franchising, Eric, on moonlighting, haven't you?
Yes.
I know what's going on.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for your company this week. We'll start, fingers crossed, at the proper time next week, which will be good. Probably have a guest or two in tow next week. Busy week this week, so it's just been us lot, but it's been great. We've had a lot of fun, talked about all sorts of stuff. Keep well, and I'll be bringing more news on the food for thought stuff probably every week as things build up there. It's looking good. If you want to get involved, by the way, with any of these things, you can send me an email on that project. Email me studio@fftradio.com. That's studio@fftradio.com. And if you can't remember that, just go over to paulenglishlive.com, and my email address, or the email address for the studio, is printed in the top left corner of the web page there. We look forward to your company next week. We'll have a lot of fun. Have a cracking week. God bless and all that. Keep good. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye for now, everyone. Bye-bye.